found a bark spider over here. Now the bark spider had built its web, and by the time you and I came back here this afternoon, the bark spider had gone. But if we look over here, we can see perhaps the bridge line. We can see the remnants of the web, and I'm just going to try and see if the light of the afternoon doesn't catch the bridge line maybe going across, because the little bark spider will be on the tree, hopefully exactly where Fergus is looking now, or on the other side. Anyway, we're going to spend a bit of time trying to find that during the course of the afternoon. It is a little bit difficult to spot a bark spider on a tree, given that a bark spider looks like a tree. And my earpiece has fallen out, but I do know that we're going to go across to Tristan, who has Pompalom. That's all I heard.
Well, we've come all the way across to continue on our search for these leopards, and we've managed to find their tracks. The problem is their tracks are right on the boundary, so we're right in the northeastern part of Djuma, up near Buffelshoek Dam, and we found, like I say, the track of a female leopard. So if we have a look here, you can see I've circled the track, so it is inside, and you've got the toes in front here, the 4 toes, and then at the back are the 3 lobes. That tells us this is a leopard. Now, if you're wondering if it's male or female, this looks like a female track. It obviously can be sometimes a little bit difficult with young males, but it does look like a female track. It's a little bit too small for any of the males that we know about at the moment. So even Hosanna, Tumba, all of these guys have quite big feet already, and so this track looks like for a female. And they've been going back and forth in this area. There is a little pan that is off to our left called Quarry Pan, and we're looking there to see if they maybe went to go and have a drink, and that if they could potentially have a carcass here somewhere that they were going back and forth from water, but they didn't actually go to the water itself. The only track that we can find is a track of a wild dog, which was from yesterday, I believe. I believe the wild dogs were seen very briefly yesterday. Oh, it's a grasshopper. Careful there, Dave. And so no sign of them actually drinking, which is not the best thing. I was hoping that if they had gone to drink, then it would be a very real chance that potentially these leopards would have been around somewhere close where they had a carcass and they've come then to get water. The problem with this time of the year is that there's water everywhere, and so it means that tracking an individual or tracking leopards can be quite challenging, because they don't have to go to the same place for water, and if they do have a carcass, sometimes they can just find these small little mud wallows inside of an area. But I haven't seen signs for any other leopards while we've been walking. So I know Taylor told me that she had tracks for 2 leopards, and she said it looked like a female and a male, but I haven't seen any male tracks yet. I will keep kind of looking and just seeing if we can't find any. But it's exciting nonetheless. It's always good to be back and be on walk and to really find leopard tracks that are from this morning. Tracking leopards has got to be one of the best things in the world to do. It's such an interesting and difficult experience that it really, really, really is one of my favorite things to do. So Fiona, sorry Kirsten, you broke up a little bit, but something about how big is around the reserve. So how good are the fences, Fiona? Well, Fiona, so in the Kruger National Park, there's a fence that runs on the western side, which is basically run by the private game reserve. So we'll stop here now, Darby. And that is basically the Sabi Sands, the Timavati, Baluli. Those reserves have fences on their western side to be able to stop animals going into the communities, and those fences are very, 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 very good. The fences on the eastern side that go into Mozambique, not so much. All right, those are government run, and unfortunately they don't have the same funding, and the fences have become a little bit dilapidated. So on the eastern side, not so good, but on the western side, very good. But what we do have is the track for a male leopard over there, so slightly larger than the track that we saw earlier. So that is of the male that is now walking, which will be interesting to see who that is. Now I believe Jamie has a feathered friend that might take off at any second, so let's go across to Jamie before it does.
Well, the trick, of course, with feathered friends is to get them in time before they fly off. This one hasn't flown off. It's just walked behind a leadwood tree. Oh, the cool thing about this particular feathered friend is that I think it's a new species for all of you. It's a short-tailed starling. I've never seen that before. That's not actually, just for our new viewers, that's not actually a species. It's a starling. It looks like a Cape glossy starling that's lost its tail. And now, of course, we've lost the bird. So, you know, I'm not sure which of us got the worst deal. I wonder what happened to it. Oh, oh, oh. Hello. Yes, sorry, we've come to look at you. That is unusual. I wonder if James or Tristan have ever seen a starling without a tail. I'm assuming, because generally speaking, because birds replace their feathers all of the time, just like human beings replace their hair, their eyebrows, their eyelashes, birds do the same thing. But when they... shame. When they replace their primary feathers, they usually do so one at a time, so that they never look as though they're missing portions of their flight feathers. It's obviously not stopping the starling, who's just caught something and has flown off with it. That is really, truly bizarre. I wonder what happened to it. I think I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't a lucky escape from a predator. I think grabbing and pulling out those tail feathers. By then... well, it's gone, and it's obviously not hampering its flight. Tails generally in bird species, used for balance and for steering and sort of that fine motor coordination in terms of where they go. Trying to see if I can spot it for you again, but I think it's gone. Vanished south onto Little Gowrie. But there you go. So the first for me. First time I've ever seen a starling without a tail. There's a little bird out here called a long-billed crombeck that naturally doesn't have much of a tail at all. In fact, it basically has a non-existent tail. And I'll show you a picture in a moment. I just want to aim to get onto the Twin Dams wall so we can see if there's a hippo or some birds hanging around, or maybe even some elephants having a swim. Ah, perfect. Thanks, Kirst. This is sometimes a gremlin-filled hollow, this particular area, but we seem to be holding out just fine. Here we go. And there is something that looks very much like a hippopotamus. It is a hippopotamus. Hello, hippopotamus. This is why we come to the waterholes at this time of day. This particular Twin Dams hippopotamus has become quite a regular on our live safaris. I like to think he's getting used to us coming and stopping and having a look at him every time we come past this area. He's certainly less shy. Initially, when he first moved into this waterhole... oh, are they...
there's two here now.
There are two.
Yeah.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah.
You see, you go away for 3 days and you lose out on all sorts of changes.
We're not too sure
If it's the same ones or different.
but
Okay.
since yesterday I think
Perfect.
there's two of them in here.
Okay, thanks, Seb. Seb tells me 2 now. Well, there we go. So I could be talking about one hippopotamus, it could be an entirely different one. Alright, boy. Okay. So much for him being more comfortable with us. It's alright, my boy. I think the presence of 2 of them, hello. I would almost go out on a limb and say we've got 2 bulls, which would be unusual. It's just their facial structure. I don't think that was just aimed at me either. They've just got slightly... the male hippo, generally speaking, have slightly more prominent bones around their skull. And got a very, almost like a man having quite a square jawline. They've got very prominent ridges on their noses. It's not all that easy to tell the difference between male and female. Is there another one in there?
That would be new.
That would be new. What is that in the middle between the 2 of them? Oh no, it might be a terrapin. A very confused, lost and alone terrapin.
Well, there.
There, yeah. Yeah.
Is it? Terrapin?
that?
Or the nostrils.
Was
of
that a
another one.
nostril? Is that a baby hippo? No, it's terrapin.
Yeah?
Is it?
Not sure.
No, come on. Hippo terrapin. It's a pretty easy mistake to make, everybody. I can't tell you how many times I've had guests to get confused between a terrapin and a hippopotamus. Kirsty has suggested that it's a terripo. I think a hippopotapin. A hippopotapin.
That's cute.
That's adorable. I think a hippopotapin sounds like a character out of a children's book. Once upon a time, a hippo and a terrapin loved each other very much, and it resulted in a hippopapin. What did I even say in the beginning?
Hippotapin.
Hippopapin.
Hippotapin.
Hippotapin. I don't even know what I said. Oh dear, descending into madness. Perhaps the adopted child of our two hippo. No, it's definitely not a hippopotamus. It is that's a hippopotamus. That should.
This one there. Alright,
That-
what is this?
That is a terrapin. Surely that is a terrapin. If it was a hippopotamus, it would have had to have come up for air now. Now it's just bubbles. Bubbles everywhere. Now, one of these hippopotamus balls is responsible for the almost constant territorial marking along Twin Dams Road. And the way that hippos mark their territory, dominant bulls, and then females in the water as well. Females will do it when they're in the water, but it's only the males, the dominant males, when they're out on land. The way that they mark their territory is by rapidly swishing their tail from side to side whilst defecating, resulting in a spray of excrement that puts one in mind of a very popular English phrase about when the excrement hits the fan. I had to be careful how I said that there. But that's basically what hippopotamus do. And Shelley, you were wondering what would happen if a hippopotamus lost its tail? Would it still be able to mark its territory? I guess it would. I mean, injuries like that do happen, and I have actually seen quite a few hippo without a tail over time, whether it's been removed in a fight with another hippopotamus or potentially by marauding lions attempting to catch them, because that does happen to hippo every now and again. And I reckon it still could. I think obviously the sheer reach of their ability to spray dung might be a little bit hampered or impaired. No, this can't be two bulls resting on each other like that. It seems so unlikely. Unless it's two young males. But yes, I think it is entirely possible. It just probably wouldn't have quite the same effect. And all he'd do is he'd just go and defecate in the normal places, along territorial routes and along territorial boundaries. I suppose the scattering effect enhances the marking of the territory, but it's the dung itself that is the crucial part. Here we go. Obviously we got a little bit of a head shake from that hippopotamus. I wanted to just sit for a little bit, just to see. If he'd carried on, then I would have moved off, but he's comfortable now. Now, Riti, good afternoon to you, and thank you for sending through your question. Riti, you would like to know, if hippo can't swim, how do they come out of the water? They walk. They walk along the bottom, and obviously the dam gets deeper and deeper as you go in towards the center, and shallower on the way out. And they'll have regularly used access points in certain places. Now, the really truly impressive things to see is in rivers. So not in these water holes that have been man-made and man-altered, but in rivers where you get really steep banks, and hippos have kind of cut their own paths into and out of the river pools that they like to spend their day in. And the sheer agility of these animals would astound you. They can't jump, and they certainly can't climb over particularly high things, but they can move up and down very steep banks, and they can do so with relative ease and at great speed. Now, all of those myths about if you're being chased by a hippo, run uphill or run downhill, I'm not sure they're going to work very well for you. I'm quite happy to sit here safely ensconced in the vehicle with the hippopotamus, but it's a creature that Tristan most definitely would not want to meet on foot.
So at least this one we can positively identify is not a crossbreeding animal at all, and we can safely say that it is a beautiful, elegant grasshopper. Now, I'm quite surprised to see one because I haven't seen one for a few weeks, and I wonder if those rains that we had about a week ago would mean that these guys are going to be out a little bit and just make use of that last little bit of moisture around. But you can see wherever he's off to, he's really looking around and trying to find. Now, I'm not sure actually if it is a male or a female. They look very similar. There's no way to really tell them apart other than the wing casing, which I haven't been able to get close enough to him to actually see because he keeps running away from us. So we really are at the extreme end of trying to keep him in frame. But it looks like it's got short little stubby wings, which would potentially mean that it is a female. Now, they are looking around probably also for mates. I've seen a couple others as we've been sort of walking that have jumped from the grass and moved into thicker places. So I think there's a few around that they potentially could be looking for. But their sort of name comes from the colors that they have. They have these beautiful greens and blacks and orange wings, and now all of those colors are there to display to any sort of other animal that these are not tasty insects. These are not insects that one would want to eat. They are showing aposematic coloration, which means they're pretty much telling everybody that I taste very, very bad. Don't eat me. Don't even try and grab me, so that they don't get injured in any process while an animal tries to feed on it. Now, the elegant grasshopper was a welcome distraction from our leopard tracking because so far it's not going very well at all. We've struggled to find any further tracks in the last ones that we saw. Seems like they're all kind of moving towards the boundary, which is not great for us. And talking about boundaries, I believe a lot of you have been wondering about the fences and why and whether they're in good condition because of the lions that escaped the Kruger National Park the last few days. Well, yesterday actually. So those 5 lions that got out, got out right in the southern part of the Kruger National Park, so quite far from here. And they escaped over a river called the Crocodile River. Now, there in that area, that river does flood quite a bit, and so it means that often you'll get a situation where there are fences there that get washed away in flood, and it means that we end up with a situation where there's a gap and the lions can then cross. Also, as the water starts to recede now after the summer, it's going to leave areas that are exposed that lions can then potentially cross and get through and out onto the tar road. So it is possible and does happen, and I'm sure those lions will be okay, and hopefully they will get found. I heard it was a bit of chaos out there today and lots of people rushing to go and see if they could see those lions. So hopefully the authorities get to them in time and they get picked up and put back in the park and back into safety, because not a safe world out there for lions outside of a park. But Darby, these are quite interesting because if we have a look here, this is going to be a nice sort of difference between the tracks that we showed you earlier and the tracks that we have here. Now, if you have a look here, the reason why I stopped with these is because you can actually see these look quite big. If I put my hand there, it looks a lot bigger than you would think. But the interesting part about these is they show a characteristic that we seldom see on normal areas. Now, these would have been made during the rains, and when this animal came along, it would have stepped and would have really dug in with its front toes and would have left these big, deep toe impressions. But the sort of telltale sign of what this animal actually is has been left in front. Now, you see these deep holes? Now, those holes have been created by the claws of a hyena. So with the leopard tracks that we had earlier, the toes would have finished and there would have been no sign of these claws. But because of the hyena having the claws out and they don't retract or protract like a cat's claws do, they end up showing this very distinct track. And you can see it's also been made larger because of the wet substrate. It means as this animal was trotting down the road, it would have put its foot in and it would have spread and made the whole track look a lot bigger. But nice to see. I wonder if this maybe is not Gwen. This is a little bit further north of where she had her den for a while. So maybe that's where she's been hanging out. I see Herbie's circled the leopard track, which is great news. So hopefully they're still going. It seems that they're going south down the boundary at the moment, which is good for us because hopefully they're then going to cut back in and we'll be able to find them here somewhere. I'm really interested to see who this could be because it's a little bit far north for Tundi, she doesn't tend to move around this much, or this far north. I'm just having a look here. So you can see here, this is quite interesting actually, and we might be able to do a really nice size comparison here. So careful here, Dave. Dave's about to step through. You can see here there's a big disturbance in the ground. Now this looks like an area where a leopard was lying down. So what you've got is there's the disturbance, and then you can see the tracks for this leopard. There's one track there, another track there, and a track there. So what I actually think has happened here is not that a leopard lay down. I think this is where two leopards have met. So potentially a female was coming down the road because they saw the tracks further back, and a male has come up and they've met together here, and this is where the male has twisted and turned. Alright, so his tracks are coming up and then he's turned. You can see how his foot gave way here and pulled back slightly, and then there's the other track that goes that way and another toes track pointing this way and then back southwards again. So I think this is where potentially a male and female met up. Now I'm really interested to know who these two are, because this is really exciting. Maybe it could be Djuma and an unknown female. Wouldn't it be amazing if it was Karula that came back? I know she's been missing, so let's see how we go and see if we can't find anything. And while we do that, let's go back to James and see what he's up to in his tent and whether or not he's found something interesting to show you.
Oh, hello. My man unfortunately met with a sticky end. You can see he's in many pieces, and I was trying to put his muscles back together based on my own. Unfortunately, my own are proportionately about a tenth the size of these ones. And unfortunately, Byron's gone home, so we can't use, his magnificent physique. I'll just have to try and do it from memory. Good. Okay, we're going to talk about colours now, but we're going to do so while we look at another colour. There we are. That is a very nice colour, I think. Is sort of lime emerald, if you like. And I thank you very much, all of you, for sending through your colours. Anna MacDougald, yes, that's your name. You said your favourite colour is matte bronze. Yeah, lots of matte bronzes coming up during the winter time. Ali, you said fascinating emerald. Yes, I quite like that too. Yeah, that sounds good. Raymond Hogenkamp, you said safari lime. I very like that very much. Quite like that. This is sort of safari lime we're looking at now. Aaron Hallis, you said tawny gold. Yes. A lion's mane, always so stunning to look at. There's lots of tawny here, actually. Linda Barnes, lion tawny. J. Luke, African gold. That's also a form of marijuana, of course. I'm not sure if you knew that or not. Emma Peters, mushroom ochre, or spore ochre. Yes, ochre is a lovely word, isn't it? Golden ochre. I quite like that too. I'm reading these, of course, because I don't have a brain that's able to remember them. And doodles. You said tawny because it represents so many of your favourite cats. So thank you very much for those. I'd quite like if you sort of kept those going throughout the afternoon, if you wouldn't mind. Looking for new colours to describe things out here, and of course with an audience of a few thousand, it's very helpful if you could all sort of help me along. That would be great. Thank you. Okay. Oh, Ronald is out. He's showing a little bit of a spirit today. You can see he's turning left and right, and there are terrapins coming to investigate him just to the right hand side, and maybe they'll come up onto the beach during the course of the afternoon. That would be very nice. Now remember, any questions you have, hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. I know we had some streaming issues to start with, and I do apologise for those, although I can categorically tell you that they were not my fault. And we were asked yesterday whether the Mara gremlins look the same as the Djuma gremlins, and I told you that they do not look the same at all. I forget exactly the facetious way in which I described them, but they're not the same. And are we having Mara today? Doesn't look like we are. There are just a few technical glitches that we are sorting out in the Mara, so hopefully later on we will be able to go there. Okay, apparently Jamie is now doing something known as bumbling along. So let's go across to here. I'm going to head out of the tent and find something in the bush.
While James goes out into the great outdoors, I thought, well, since I'm here and I'm on my way well, I'm actually not really on my way anywhere. I thought I might show you what we were talking about with the hippopotamus scattering their dung. If I thought about it earlier, I probably could have showed you a nice fresh pile. This, of course, judging by how dry and, well, basically grey in colour it is not perhaps the prime example. But if I hop out, oops, sorry, get a brief flash of my fingers there. If I hop out, if I can unplug myself, which is proving to be difficult, let me hop out and show you. Let's see. I have found hippo dung. It still smells very, very strong. I've found hippo dung that reaches easily up to this height, above my head. So their scattering effect works very, very well. This hippo didn't put as much effort into it. I'm trying to see the furthest up. I mean, it spreads all the way here. There's a bit more of the fresh stuff over here. The highest that I can see at the moment is this high. There we go. So that's still the height of my shoulder. And a hippopotamus bottom is probably around about there. No, yeah, around about there, where the exit point would be. Oh no, there's some up there. There, that's the highest point that I can find. They scatter it all over, and that's a great way of just spreading the smell that much further than it might otherwise be. And every morning, if you drive along this route, you can smell the scent of hippo dung, which I find, despite the fact that it is of course just grass, that's all it is, I find there's a slightly fishy odor to it. And I don't quite know why that is, because hippopotamus do not eat fish, as we emphasize time and time and time again. They are not carnivores, they are herbivores. They're not, how do you say it? Piscivores. Somebody who only eats fish? Yeah. They are not one of them either. So I don't know why it is, but I find there's a fishy tinge to the scent. Perhaps it's just the constant wallowing in water. Now, Lily, you want to know, how do the male hippopotamus impress the ladies? Well, by establishing themselves as the dominant male, that's half of their work done. However, a lot of the time, hippopotamus are quite like rhino. A lot of the time when the female's ready to mate, she does quite a lot of running, and she makes the male do quite a lot of chasing and courting. Sometimes even up to easily 2 weeks before she does actually mate with him, which is a great way of ensuring that another bigger, stronger, better male has a chance to come along and fight off the contender. Now, hippopotamus fights are common, so we sit with quite an artificial situation where we've got one pod and probably one dominant bull, sometimes more than one dominant bull, as long as the water hole's big enough to support them both. And it's only when you get the drought that competition becomes fierce. But I have seen many a fight, and it's not so much that the bull has to impress the lady as the bull has to chase away the competition. That's really where it comes in for him. And hippo kill each other. It doesn't always happen, of course, but there are serious fights, and hippo do occasionally die. And at the end of it all, that's one of the big reasons why they have those fearsome tusks. There's tusks that stick out at angles out of their jaw, and it's to fight. It's to fight off other hippopotamus. And the bulls, I don't know if you've ever seen this on a live safari. Certainly you haven't in my time here. In the last 2 years it hasn't happened. Not seriously. I think you probably heard it on the dam camera a few times during the drought, because I know I heard it from camp. But I don't know if you've ever seen a proper serious hippo fight on a live safari. It's terrifying. The impact that they have on each other. Ooh, there's a pretty antelope. I'm still trying to work out, I don't know how on earth you meant to decide what one color describes Africa. That's impossible. I find myself sounding like an Andrew Lloyd Webber song. Okay, he said 2. But I end up doing a sort of Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat kind of description in my head. I can't pick 2. Hello, pretty things. I can describe you in 2, though. White and tan. Or is that... perhaps ochre would be a better description. There we go. Definitely I'm so glad there wasn't a bull here, because that would really have messed up my color scheme. Oh, they are so pretty. I don't feel like we've seen nearly enough in Yala this year. There's a young bull, but he hasn't yet acquired the dark coat of the adult. He's still got a way to go. He's at that teenager in-between stage, where he's got the fluffy fur on his back, but he hasn't yet gone that slaty grey. Can I say that? Can I describe them as a slaty grey colour? I feel as though James is bringing out the truly, well, the thesaurus in us for a start. A colour palette. They've vanished off into the vegetation. While I search for them and other creatures, let's go across to something with hopefully many colours.
This particular one is not very many colours, but I think it is something called a Hinsa blue. Now, it is not blue at all, of course, and the Hinsa blue lacks much blue. But when you fold its wings, or when it folds its wings, because you can't fold its wings, of course, it is plain black and white. And that means that it is either a Hinsa blue, a white pie. I so wanted it to be a white pie, but I think the white pie has different colours on the inside, or a dotted blue, which we had a few days back. But the dotted blue has got quite a lot of blue on the inside, and this one most certainly does not. It's got 2 spots on the forewings there. So we're going to keep seeing if we can't identify what is it gone. Oh, I can't believe it. So fine. Oh. Right, here we are. There is the Hinsa blue. Hinsa, of course, was a Xhosa chief at one stage. Not sure how. Well, he must have been into lepidoptery, I suppose, at some stage. Anyway, that is the Hinsa blue there. There is the white pie. And there are the 2 forewings, and at least the above wings, and you can see they don't look very much like what we saw there above, but nor does the dotted blue, which is over there. Now, I identified one of the blues we saw the other day as a dotted blue, and I thought maybe that's what it was. And this one here, if we look here, I think that's what it was. I think it was a dotted blue. And I know it wasn't that blue inside, but it was a sort of reflective rainbowy type colour, which may have looked blue. And of course, these things are all variable, but it did have those 2 very distinctive dots on the forewings. So that's what I think it was, a dotted blue. Unfortunately, not a white pie or a Hinsa blue. Blue, of course, is what we have to call it because, well, they're called blues, aren't they? Good. Come on then. Let's see what else we can find on our way to the tent. Sorry, excuse me. I have found something. It's a flower. It's a beautiful pink flower, which we're now going to place under the microscope and see if some astounding insect doesn't perhaps crawl out of it. Come with me. Do not dally outside, Fergus. Come now, man. We haven't got all day. You know, people are waiting, expecting some form of information from us. We'll just walk around the place as though we're on a Sunday afternoon stroll. Okay, here we go. Ooh. Very nice. Very nice. Now, I've forgotten what species of flower this is. I thought it might be an indigofera. And I thought to myself, don't say it if you're not sure, because you'll be in trouble, because you know you've been told it before. And then I thought to myself, oh, you'll just have to admit to ignorance. That's what I've done. I think it's an indigofera species of some sort. Isn't that pretty? Now, if you sit with one of these things for long enough, some creature will emerge. There doesn't seem to be a great emergence of creatures from here, but there does seem to be an emergence of terrapins from the water. There, on the left-hand side, is a terrapin thinking about coming out of the water. and it was just showing signs of actual coming out of the water, but now it seems to have gone back in. Now, I have to disagree with Jamie. I don't think that looks like a hippopotamus at all. I think it looks quite different, in fact. Hippo is, of course, much larger, and I think the distinctive feature, the difference between the two, would be that the hippopotamus, of course, has got pinker skin than a terrapin's. I mean, so otherwise, I don't know how you can confuse them, given that one has such pink skin and one doesn't. Then, the other thing is an interesting one. You were talking earlier about dark-skinned buffalo and why they should be dark-skinned. I think the reason is precisely that same for why we get dark-skinned people in Africa and in hot climates. It's because there is protection from the sun. The skin is full of melanin. That melanin will protect you from the sun, and of course if you're a buffalo, although you do get hot, your size means that you heat up much more slowly than something our size. And so although black people will almost certainly absorb more heat into the skin than we do as white people, black people are able to resist, obviously, the sun's UV rays. And I remember my tracker and I used to have a huge laugh about this. Elvis used to sit in the front of the vehicle, and every time I'd be lathering myself at 8 o'clock in the morning with sunscreen, I'd reach over and to sort of say, "Elvis, would you like some?" And he'd chuckle and fall off the tracker seat and find it quite amusing, and because of course he didn't need it. And although there is certainly, with the hole in the ozone layer, there's an increase in melanomas, I think, and skin cancers for black people, especially in areas like Australia, where there is a larger hole above the ozone layer. In Africa, of course, the necessity for sunscreen does not exist. And that, I believe, is why so many of the animals out here have got dark skin. They've got lots of melanin, and that's very important. Now, Tristan has chosen to eschew the use of sunscreen. Instead, he has chosen to grow himself a rather impressive beard.
Well, James, I'm not sure I'm mimicking any insects, but the beard is also not very impressive. It's still at its short phase. It can get much longer than this. We need to get to something of the same sort of proportions as Zander, who's up in the Masai Mara. His beard is getting absolutely massive these days. He's got this long beard, so we'll have to ask Brent to show us that beard at some point. But I think it's getting up into winter now, so we have to grow the beard a little bit more to keep the face nice and warm in those cold winter mornings when we're on game drive. But we're still on our leopard tracks. They are still heading back and up and down. They're going now northwards again. It seems like they had a real field day, and the more we look at these tracks, the more it's becoming evident that these are definitely a mating pair of leopards. So it looks like a female and a male that have been mating. We found places where they were lying down together, and then places where they have been mating. So I'm sure that it is a male and female that are mating. Now, who that could be is anyone's guess. I suppose Tundi would be almost at that time where she could be mating now. Tumba's approaching that sort of period in his life where she'll start looking for a male. We know that Karula's been missing and could potentially be looking for a mate. So it's going to be interesting to see who exactly this is. When it comes to female leopards and mating with males, you can often find a female leopard way, way, way out of her territory. I once remember finding Karula on the Londolozi-Singita boundary, way, way, way far from here. She was in the far west, never seen her there before, and she rocked up with Tingana and was mating there. So it does happen from time to time, and we do end up with a situation where you can find females out of their territory, so it'll be very, very interesting. And we've been stopping every now and then just to listen, because often finding mating leopards, the best way to do it is to listen for them. They make quite a bit of noise when they mate, and at this stage it's still all very, very quiet. And talking about hot weather and sunscreen and all of that James was talking about, we were trying to see if we couldn't get some butterflies to show you as well, but they're all flying about too fast. We were looking around trying to see if we could get them, but with this heat they're on supercharged mode and they're dashing about from branch to branch and grass to grass, trying to kind of find what they're looking for and find each other. So butterflies are not proving to be very easy, and other than that it's actually been quite quiet out here. I haven't heard any signs of any elephants, which is a bit of a disappointment. I was hoping to come back to elephants everywhere. I spent some time in the Kruger National Park and there was elephants everywhere, which is a little bit further north of us. I went up and towards the Elephant and the Letaba river systems, and we must have seen easily 700 to 1,000 elephants in a day. It really was quite amazing. So hopefully those elephants will all start coming down as it starts to dry out up there, and they'll head down into these areas which are still a little bit green and got some sort of life and nutrients. Dave, do you see anything? No. It's quiet up on this side. It was beautiful though. Got a beautiful view. We have this sort of left hand side here. This is where the Drakensberg mountains are. Unfortunately they're hidden by clouds, but it is really, really pretty. So Thomas, you're wondering about if there's any updates on Shadow and Cub. Well, I'm not sure. I haven't been around for the last few days, and I definitely haven't spent that much time sort of looking on social media, but I, to be honest, haven't heard of anything or haven't seen anything. So what I'll try and do this afternoon is try and just see if I can't reach out to some of the other guides around here and see if they've had any updates. But as far as I know, no. There hasn't been too many updates. She often spends time in an area called Hofmans, which sits south of Djuma. And that area is only traversed by Chitwa and Arathusa. And the area that she likes to spend time in there is this block up to the north, and it is full of black monkey orange, which is a type of tree that is very difficult to get a vehicle into. So you end up growing in these huge stands, and these leopards get inside there, and it becomes really quite tough to actually find them in that. So I think that's probably where she could be, and maybe she's hiding out there, and the guides don't really want to put too much pressure on her in that area. It's just too thick and too dense, and it makes it quite difficult to actually get a vehicle there. So that's where she could be. Now we're going to carry on these leopard tracks and see what else we can find, and see if we can't find some insects that will sit still for us. And while we do that, let's go across to Jamie, who I believe is bumbling along, much like we're ambling along on foot.
I am ambling, but I'm ambling with a purpose. My purpose, or the destination at least that I have in mind, is Buffelshoek Dam. Because Tristan's not far from here on those leopard tracks, and I thought, let me just check around this area. Because if it is mating leopards, if Tristan's right about that, and they are still around, we should hear them. And generally speaking, leopards will mate all day, roughly every, if it's nice and cool, roughly every 5 or so minutes in the beginning. And then it slows down a bit as it gets warmer. But I think if we sat here and listened for a little bit, we might, if they're still around, we might get to hear them. And I'm sure that's what Tristan is doing as well, is walking, stopping and listening. My goodness, every time I come back here there's an extra hippo. Now there's 5 of them. We've got our own little Buffelshoek pod developing. Now, apparently Byron was here this morning and he had 5. Well, it's good to know we didn't lose one in the middle of the day. Would be unlikely. Hello, hippo. What do you think, Seb? 5 terrapins? I think so. 5 terrapins. I don't know what you were being told about them being hippopotamus. That's 5 terrapins as far as I can tell. Looking deeply insulted that I've made that egregious mistake and got confused between a terrapin and a hippopotamus. Matthew, watch. In answer to your question, Matthew wants to know if it's true that hippo close their nose when they go underneath the surface of the water. Absolutely they do, so that they don't have to focus on maintaining any kind of a pressure gradient. So when you go in the water, and perhaps you go underneath the surface of the water, if you're anything like me, do somersaults whenever you can. You can either hold your nose or you can control your breath so much so that the water doesn't go up your nose. But hippo don't want to have to concentrate on doing that, so it's not just their nostrils that they close, it's their ears as well. Watch as they go underneath the surface of the water and watch their nostrils. Hey, come pop your nose up for me, please, and thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, you've been a bit scratched up. Now there, the nostrils there, right at the end of the nose, just in case you were curious. You see how they open and close instinctively? As soon as any water gets anywhere close to the edge, that movement, the ripples will be picked up by the sensitive nerves. And hippo do have very, very sensitive nerves around the nose and the mouth and their lips. And then aided by those very bristly whiskers that stick out course, now all 5 of them have disappeared. Whenever I want to try and show you. Oh yes, they do close their nostrils. And hippos are so beautifully designed. There. Every now and again a bit of water gets in, and they do a brisk breath out to blow out whatever's gathered along the tops of the nostrils. But you can see the muscles contracting there. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of those diagrams of human bodies drawn with different proportions according to where the nerves are concentrated. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen that. They look very strange diagrams of people with giant hands and giant faces and lips. And hippopotamus would be the same. All of those nerve cells centered around those particular places. Well, they've all vanished. They have disappeared completely beneath the surface of the water. I'm going to enjoy the view, but while I enjoy a macro view, let's go across to a micro one.
I've managed to find something very special, everybody. Here we go. It even has its own soundtrack. It is the mating butterflies, everyone. At the jazz club. Please excuse me for that. I found it thoroughly amusing. Fergus and I are crying with laughter. But it is wonderful to see them like this. And I just very, very gently picked away the grass stalk, and there you can see them. And there's, I don't know which one's the male. I think the one with a bit of blue on the wings is the male. He's slightly larger, and that'll be the female behind him. But again, difficult to almost see whether they're the same species if you saw them without the aid of the microscope. I think this is just wonderful. They are so at rest, just because it's starting to get a little bit cooler maybe. But I'm astounded at how long this process takes. So it's not a quick process at all. In fact, I'm going to guess that I've got that wrong. I'm going to say I think it's the female on the right-hand side. And I think it's the female because I suspect that she's got to carry the eggs, and that's why perhaps her abdomen is that much larger than the male's. Isn't that wonderful? Normally with a moth you can tell because the male has got not clubbed antenna, but his antennae aren't nearly as sort of well combed as a female's. No, that's the other way around. Sorry, the male's got very well combed antenna because he picks up the pheromones that the female gives off. But these two antennae look almost precisely the same. Isn't that a wonderful picture? Oh, the most beautiful moths. And of course, when we talk about moths, most people think, well, dull brown thing that gets in my head when I'm snoozing or walking around at night. But these, of course, are diurnal, and therefore they're much more brightly coloured. I think that's just gorgeous. Right, I'm going to put them back. And while I do that, I would suggest that you have a look at Ronald. He's making more friends. Takes a little bit of time to make friends, clearly, but you can see everything there getting up and out of the water as things start to cool down. The terrapins, of course, having to regulate their body temperatures, and so they'll be in and out of the water consistently throughout the course of the day. And there they are now, coming out just to warm up before it gets too cold, before the evening truly sets in. I have replaced the butterflies back outside, and they may now have some privacy without the advent of or the advantage, perhaps, of my slightly sick sense of humour. Now, let us try and investigate what else is going on at this waterhole. We have the terrapins. There are thousands and thousands of terrapins, and there you can see the dam cam view now. We've got impala and nyalas, And I would tell you what, I love coming to sit down at the dam in the afternoons because there's always something going on. You get the nyalas and impalas that come past, often baboons, often you'll get buffalo and elephant wandering down towards here. And then, of course, as the evening starts to fall, so the smell of, especially this time of year, sort of going into early winter, that first sort of touch of dry grass and dust starts to touch your nostrils as the temperature goes down, and I just think it's a beautiful time of the day and a beautiful time of the year. Of course, most times of the year are quite beautiful here. Let's head back to the serrated hinged terrapins if we can, because the one on the left is doing yoga. You see that far left one just kicking his flipper out and doing some yoga there? And he's stopped now, of course, because he doesn't want to do his yoga on television without being paid for it. He hasn't signed a release form, unfortunately. And I'm sure the others will eventually come out onto the beach. Jill, there he is. He's doing it now. Now, one day, of course, we will be able to zoom the camera on Ronald, and we'll be able to zoom in completely silently, so he won't know that we're watching him do his yoga. But I think during the course of the afternoon, all the others will come up onto the beach, and so we'll keep an eye on Ronald, and if we're very lucky, that water monitor will come past. There's a question coming through from an unknown anonymous viewer about whether or not Ronald has his own Facebook page. This is a person called Connor. I'm not sure if it's a different Connor. Okay, it's not our Connor. He wants to know if Ronald has a Facebook page. Connor, no, I don't think Ronald has a Facebook page. I haven't asked him, and I haven't searched for him. He's quite private, so if he does have a Facebook page, you probably wouldn't be able to find him. He's probably a very private profile. Just a few select groups of friends, for example, Timothy and Thomas over there, the two terrapins there, I know his Facebook friends. He has a Twitter profile, but not under his own name, it's under a pseudonym where he makes sophisticated political commentary, and so it's difficult to find him on social media. All right, Tristan is apparently approaching some water. Which water it is, I'm not really sure.
Well, we have approached water, James, and we'll try and let you guess, or see if anybody else can have a guess as to where we are on #SafariLive. And we thought because it's quite a warm afternoon, there would be no better place for a pair of leopards to spend the day watching the sun going by than to be at a waterhole. So we're going to check around here and see what we can find. And there's a beautiful drainage line that comes into the waterhole, and so maybe they're lying up in the nice cool sand that could be a little bit moist from the water that we've had flow into this dam over the last little bit. Other than that, it's always good to be around waterholes. You never know what else you can find. It's this time of the day where you'll get things like elephants and buffalo and varying other types of animals that will come down and drink, so it will be a perfect place to look around. And like I say, when we go into this riverbed system, it's going to be so pretty inside there, and with the sun, a late afternoon sun at our backs, it should be a wonderful place to walk. So I think that's where we're going to head off into and try and see what else we can discover and find and notice in amongst these thickets. But as we're going, it's always good to look into areas like this. You can see there's quite a bit of mud around me, and mud is the best place to look for tracks. It's really, really easy to see them. You can see there was some elephants here that made some really big, deep moon craters, but there are also places where there's soft mud that a leopard's paw prints would definitely show up. Now, keep on going along and see what else there is. There's a few hippos in the distance. Right, we're going to take a short break, and while we carry on tracking these elusive spotted cats, we'll see you all in a little bit. Right, so that was our ad break for Practice for TV shows. So we're back live, we're back doing our thing. For those of you who are new viewers, we don't actually go on to an ad break. Crystal, you said Buffelshoek Dam. Well done, Crystal. We are indeed at Buffelshoek Dam. It is really, really beautiful at this time of the day. Now, Dave, I don't know if you can get that, but there's a hippo that is busy snorting. Oh, he's just gone underwater now. But let's see, because it's beautiful where we are now. It's backlighting this hippo, which is a different sort of shot than we normally get from Buffelshoek Dam, because we're normally on the dam wall, and the light is a little bit different. But as he was coming up and blowing air, all that moisture was being lit by the golden rays of the sun, and it looked very, very pretty. Now, of course, it's going to be a naughty hippo and probably stay underwater, and we're not going to see anything of it, which is just our luck this afternoon so far, but you never know, maybe he'll pop up. What do you think, Dave? Maybe. I reckon it'll pop up as you turn the camera away. But while we try and see and wait patiently for our hippo, I'm going to try and see if there isn't anything else that I can find. Now, Buffelshoek Dam is one of those dams you've got to be a little bit careful of. You don't want to end up getting too close to the water, because I don't trust the water here. It's definitely big enough to house some crocodiles like Boris the Blade or Vladimir the Impaler, so you'd be a little bit careful when you have to be close to water. Now, Jamie, you're wondering if there's ever been dangerous situations when it comes to the hippos. Well, I haven't personally had any dangerous situations with hippos here at Djuma. I think last year during the drought, 1 or 2 dangerous situations happened when the guys were on walk or tracking, but we'll have to ask James and Jamie when they were here on Djuma. In terms of dangerous situations with hippos, I had one once at Chitwa, which was, in hindsight, quite entertaining. Well, it must have been quite funny to watch, but every night at Chitwa, you'd take the guests back to their rooms and you'd escort them just in case any animals were around. At that stage, there were no fences around the camp, so we used to get lions and leopard and all kinds of things coming in and out. And now Chitwa has that really big dam. So the one evening I was walking 2 Brazilian guests that I had that didn't speak much English, and were kind of making conversation, and I was talking quite loudly and I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on, and I dropped them off at their room. And as I came out and walked away from their room, I went over this small little bridge and came out on the other side, and this massive bull hippo was staring at me dead in the face. And unluckily for me, he was not very impressed with my presence and came rushing towards me. I had to dive underneath this small little wooden deck, and the hippo came off to my side and went barreling back towards the dam, and felt very, very lucky that there was a little bridge to hide under, because that hippo would have got me otherwise. So I have had that situation happen, which was not very pleasant at all, and one that I would not want to repeat. A hippo actually moves a lot faster than I would have thought they would, and that was a stark reminder to be very, very careful. And it's amazing at night how you just don't see them. I still had a flashlight, and as I was shining, I didn't see it until it kind of looked up and the eyes reflected back. Now, our hippos have been a bit naughty. They're staying underwater, so I think we're going to carry on and try and see if we can't negotiate this little thicket and rocky face. And while we do that, we don't want Dave to fall over holding the camera, so let's go back to James and see if he's got any stories about hippos to share with us.
James, Jamie, very easy names to get confused, so I'm clearly not James. I wish I had James's deep bass. Well, maybe it would be a bit odd coming from my body, but you know, that wonderful soothing deep voice of his, or perhaps his vocabulary. But unfortunately, you'll have to stick with me for now. What was I going to tell you? I remember talking about hippopotamus and interesting moments with them. The story that always springs to my mind whenever we have questions about whether we've had any dangerous situations with hippo was years ago with my family. We were staying in a lodge on the Sand River, actually close to a confluence of a tributary of the Sand and the Sabi. And it was well known that hippo wandered about there at night, and everybody knew to be careful, but we fell into the complacency trap that a lot of South Africans fall into. And we were walking from our room to the restaurant to have dinner, and it was myself, obviously my father, my mother, and my little brother, who at the time I think must have been around about 12 or so. Difficult to remember. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, some very well-meaning people decided to tell us that there was a hippo right next to us by shining the light directly in our eyes and then shouting, "Be careful, the hippo," which of course served to startle both the hippo and us, and the Pattersons took off in different directions. I went behind a big tree. My father got the full force of the spotlight and stood there completely unable to see, blinking blindly, and completely unaware of the hippo, standing there going, "You idiots, there is no hippo," because he couldn't see it. The most impressive, though, was the sheer Olympic sprinter that my younger brother became. Now, Angus is not... How do I put this? I don't want to be mean at all. I don't mean to be mean, but he's not the sportiest creature in the world. But the turn of speed that he was capable of producing, and we always talk about Dode Run, and I'll get back to that in a second, the turn of speed that I saw from him that day had me convinced that he had a future as an Olympic sprinter. I have never seen anything move so fast in my entire life. But we always talk about the fact that you don't run, and you shouldn't run. My dad did absolutely the right thing, albeit accidentally. The one thing you don't want to do, though, is get between a hippo and water, which is exactly what we were. Luckily for us, the hippo is so used to people blundering about in the dark that he wasn't fazed at all. Now, we were very fortunate in that regard, because it could have ended quite differently. But if you are on a hippopotamus path and you are between it and the water, get off the hippopotamus path and get away from being between the hippopotamus and water, because the water is their safe place, and they'll go through you if they have to get there. I'm moving on from big hippopotamus. I'm on the search for big elephants. I have a feeling there's a herd lurking around here somewhere. There's fresh-ish tracks from this morning, probably just after the sunrise safari, and some freshish dung, and they're coming in this direction, and I think it's fresh enough that if the elephants weren't on a mission, they might still be around here. Ah, Deborah. The all-important question. Deborah would like to know, why is it that elephants can swim, but hippopotamus can't? The fact that hippo can't swim isn't to do necessarily with their size, because obviously an elephant is much larger than a hippo. It's to do with the proportion of their legs to their body size and the way that they're structured, such that they can't really doggy paddle because their legs are so short compared to their somewhat stumpy bodies that doggy paddling doesn't really work for them. And I mean, we say they can't swim, they can't doggy paddle endlessly, but they can propel themselves beautifully through water without any difficulties. Elephants are really good swimmers, and they're one of the few animals, well, they have a trunk, so they can actually submerge themselves completely and have their trunk sticking out and breathe through that. And it's one of the reasons that's been put forward in terms of their evolutionary history as to why they might have been, at some point, had an ancestor that was aquatic, because they don't have that pleural space between the rib cage and the lung itself. So they don't have a pleural fluid space. The lungs are attached directly to the rib cage, and apparently that's meant to. Apparently they're meant to be. Sorry, there's somebody new who's just started guiding. It's just a voice that I don't know. Just in terms of coping with the pressure systems of breathing breathing underwater or maintaining that pressure underwater. Don't know. It's an interesting one. Their legs are also just so much longer than a hippopotamus that swimming's a lot easier. And they're very good swimmers, and they love to swim, which is what I was hoping for this afternoon, because it's warm. I was hoping that we might have a herd of elephants somewhere at one of the water holes. No such luck, though. Not yet, anyway. And if I don't win with the elephants, and I don't win with the leopards, then I'm going to go and search for the hyenas. I want to know if they're still at that den site or not. We've all shared hippo stories this afternoon, Tristan, myself. It would be grossly unfair to leave James out, so let's hear an entertaining tale from him.
I don't think I have an entertaining hippo story. I have managed to fix Byron, though. He's looking okay now. Hello, Byron. He, of course, is about to be eaten by Tigger. Good. I've actually never been attacked by a hippopotamus, which was something of a relief. I will tell you, however, one story about it. Didn't include me, but it included a friend of mine who was assigned to a cameraman, I shall say not where, and in that Fergus will start giggling because he'll realise quite quickly who I'm talking about. A hippopotamus died. In fact, I think it was killed by, it may have been killed by lions. Anyway, it died near the water, and it then, or was hurt near the water, and it ended up in the water dead, basically. And this chap wanted to get a sort of POV or point of view from the hippopotamus, because there were crocodiles feeding on the carcass. So what he did was second my mate and a leaky canoe, and he said, well, what we'll do is we'll get in the canoe, this is at night, go across to the hippopotamus, and you will film me standing on the hippo carcass as I film the crocodiles. And this is duly what they did. How they, I don't think they got any pictures. I think that they were very lucky not to die. And eventually, what this chap was doing was filming the crocodiles approaching the hippopotamus from inside the cavity of the ribs. So that was quite a sort of a brave, strange way to approach filming a hippo carcass being devoured by crocodiles. My friend was scarred for life. Now, I do think that Jamie's being very unfair on a number of scores. Firstly, I think she has a very soothing voice. It might not be as deep as mine. I'm not sure how soothing mine is, but it is very soothing. And secondly, her brother, although he may not look like an Olympic athlete, indeed he does not, but nor do I, so I can say that, he is rather like Jamie, a very fine musician. And so you need to encourage Jamie, of course, to one day bring her flute out and play it for us. Ooh, that's very interesting. Siri, on my telephone, just looked up soothing voice for some reason. I'm not sure why. Anyway, these are the seeds. These are the seeds of an unidentified flower that I found. And again, I was rather hoping for a beetle or something that may have dug into them. But a bit like much of the rest of the things I've put under the microscope today, other than the gorgeous moths. This is a bit disappointing. Let's quickly go across to Ronald if we can. There's a three-banded plover there. There we go. That's much better. Three-banded plover. You can see that the terrapins have gone back into the water. They've gone foraging. Now, earlier today, and this is actually quite cool. I don't know if you were watching this morning. I'm just going to turn this slightly. If you were watching this morning, you may have seen Taylor. There we go. You may have seen Taylor on walk, and she found some snails underneath a leaf that she found at a pan or water hole. I'm going to turn him back because he's not so good into the sun. And that is what something like that three-banded plover would eat. They eat snails, and it's exactly that sort of thing that they would eat. And, you know, I've never found snails like that before, and I've always wondered where they are. Okay, let's go to the dam camera now, where we have got the white-faced ducks, which we looked at today. We had a long discussion about the, well, unfortunate fate of probably 6 of the youngsters. Here we have only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left. And I think there were 13 at one stage. Anyway, they're in the company of a blacksmith lapwing that also would eat little marine invertebrates. Aquatic invertebrates. This is not the sea, is it, Fergus? No, it is a small dam, a long way away from the sea. Anyway, the ducks are having a snooze. You can see they're having an afternoon ziz while Mum and Dad talk to each other about the trials of raising children. And the little ducklings have tucked their little beaks underneath their wings and are having a little afternoon ziz. I've never seen that before. That's very cute. They're just delivering a couple of lessons to the older ones about bathing and preening, and trying to get them to go to sleep too so that they can have some adult time. But like most children, of course, they have no desire to leave the adults to themselves. They want to join in on the conversation. I think that's very cute. Very nice. All right, I believe that Jamie is having an enormous amount of success. Of course, we found an almost insurmountable number of large predatory cats, huge numbers of elephants all over the place, buffalo, kudu, giraffe, you name it. Every high-profile species of animal that you can think of we found in the last 4 drives, and Jamie is just continuing with that spectacular luck.
What can I say? The luck has just been so very extraordinary that sometimes I just have to stop at the little things and remind myself that they exist out here too. Now, we might not have a big 5-member for you, but we've got a small 5-member, which is equally exciting. Well, it's exciting, nevertheless. This is a red-billed buffalo weaver, or several red-billed buffalo weavers. And of course, they are one of the small 5. The small 5, of course, being the smaller creatures out here that have some passing resemblance to the name of, well, not even a passing resemblance, they actually have the name in their title of one of the Big Five members. Big Five, of course, being a truly outdated term for lion, leopard, buffalo, elephant, and rhino, and hence the buffalo weavers being a member of the small five. So there we go. That's not too bad. We found buffalo and buffalo weavers this afternoon, and the afternoon is not yet over. I actually, honestly, truly find watching buffalo weavers fascinating, especially when they're building their nests, which they're not really as dedicated to at the moment. It's not breeding season, but they do constantly add to their very, very messy... What have you got there? They do constantly add to their very messy structures that they love to build around antennas, repeaters, dead trees, all sorts of places. But they are not a bird that you would like to have building a nest in camp, and that's because they like to use thorn trees. And indirectly, a buffalo weaver was responsible for a friend of mine. To say that she nearly lost her foot is probably a bit dramatic, but she did get a really, truly serious infection. She did like to run around barefoot, but because the buffalo weavers were building their nest in the tree above our lawn, they would often drop the thorny sticks down, and my friend Emma jumped on one, went up into her heel, obviously hit the bone, because it was a sicklebush branch, or a leadwood branch. It was a hard piece of wood. And as a result, she ended up on a massive course of 2 different types of antibiotics. Her foot swelled up to double its size in less than 12 hours. She was in absolute agony. And when she went to the doctor said she was, if it didn't go down within a few days, she was going to have surgery. It gave her a really, really nasty infection. So there you go. Buffalo weavers are just as dangerous as buffalo. That's a stretch even for me. Well, I hope I saw another small animal. Oh, brilliant. John in Colorado has obviously been building up his bird's nest, and John in Colorado said that a buffalo weaver, red-billed buffalo weaver, is number 97. Did I get that right, Kirst? 97 for John. Well done, John. 3 more and you get 100. What are you missing? Do you think we can get John to 100 before the end of the sunset safari? I think we could. Alright, apparently my mongoose was an imagined one, because I don't see them and I don't hear them. So I didn't find you another small creature, not yet anyway. Alright, John. 3 to go. I think we should try and make it a century this afternoon. See if I can find you something more unusual that you're unlikely to have. One step behind these elephants. I'm still dedicated though. I'm still going to try and find them. While I do, let's go and see if Tristan's had any more luck at Buffelshoek Dam.
Well, we haven't, Jamie. We unfortunately have not found any further signs of these leopards. There was some tracks around Buffelshoek Dam, but on closer inspection they look like they were from yesterday or last night and are not as fresh as the tracks that we saw. So, unfortunately, our leopard hunt is starting to come to a close because the sun is starting to dip down, and so tracking leopards on foot in the dark is not the best option. But what we've come to is a beautiful, gorgeous tree that is over Buffelshoek Dam, known as a torchwood tree. And this is a tree that gives Brent Leo Smith a few nightmares. For those of you who are not aware of what happened with Brent, is that Brent tried to show everybody a torchwood tree, climbed up it, and ended up falling out of the tree in a massive heap at the bottom. How he didn't break anything, I'm still not convinced. He fell from quite a dizzying height and got really, really hurt. But what is noticeable is if we look around me here, is first of all you'll see that there is a big pile of elephant dung, which is not uncommon under a torchwood tree. Torchwoods often provide a nice amount of shade, but you'll see that there are lots of sort of fruits that look like they've been squashed. Now these fruits are all from a torchwood tree themselves, so if we have a look here, I'll pick one up that's hopefully not squashed already. Oh, it looks like it might be a little bit, but here we go. This is a little torchwood fruit, and this is what the elephants would be after. So the elephants would come out to come and start eating these. Now, we've had mixed reports about these, and actually Taylor and I have discussed it, and she was saying that she's heard that they can be poisonous, and she's not sure if it's the fruit or the actual seed. Now, if I tear it open, you'll see that it's got a very sticky, sort of pasty kind of fruit. It's almost date-like in its appearance, but it has this very funny smell. It almost smells like, I don't know what the word is for it. Dave says to me it smells a bit like old jam, but I'm not sure that's the right thing, Dave. But it's got quite a pungent smell, and the taste is not great either. It almost tastes a little bit like paint. It's not very, very pleasant at all. So I don't think this will kill you, because I have eaten them before and it should be fine. And I actually had a tracker who used to eat them like they were sweets. He used to just shove them in, and he was also just fine for many years. So it must be in the nut itself. But the reason it gets this torchwood name is because of the properties of burning. So this nut, if you press it, you'll get an oil out of it that does burn for a long period of time. And so what they used to do is take the branch, and they would then wrap it with the bark and put that oil from the nut on, and they would then light it, and they used to use it as a primitive torch. They used to walk around with it and negotiate the darkness with this torchwood tree, which is quite something. It is also quite an interesting tree in that it generally is one of my favorites just from a beauty point of view. Now, Kirsty's saying I think I should eat one of the fruits. Well, Kirsty, if I eat one of the fruits, then I think I will bring for you to eat, and you'll have to eat a whole one, because they are delightfully delicious, and hopefully you'll enjoy them with me. And so what we'll do is I'll bring them back to camp, and we can eat them together, and we'll film it, and then we can post it later. So Kirsty says a deal. So I'll have to harvest some fruits for her, and we'll do it a little bit later. Now, you can hear our hippos are in agreement. Kirsty, I think the hippos think that's a fine idea to watch you eat one of these. And all has gone quiet now as well. You can hear they've all kind of had their say. And it's that time of the day where we're going to start hearing the hippos start to vocalize and to call. And they're going to start thinking about coming out for their evening shenanigans and moving around. And it's interesting to see how many hippos we are getting at Buffelshoek Dam. More and more and more are starting to arrive, and hopefully we'll get a really nice big pod that will end up staying here, and we'll have lots of hippos and even maybe some little babies, because there's nothing cuter than a baby hippo. I know we had that baby at Chitwa Dam earlier in the year, but hopefully we'll get one here on Buffelshoek Dam that we can find and see it spending time on the shores. But other than that, it really is a very, very picturesque evening. Oh, Stefan, this is an interesting question. You're wondering if hippos turn cannibalistic when under dietary pressure. So like last year when we had that drought period and there was very little food available for hippos, would they then consider eating meat? Well, in my experience, no. I've never seen hippos actually physically swallowing bits of meat. I've seen them inspecting carcasses often, where they've gone up and they've used their mouths and they've toyed with meat and picked it up and sort of smelt it and tasted it, but they've not actually swallowed any. I don't think their digestive system would be able to cope with the vast amount of protein that they end up getting out of a carcass. So no, I've never seen them do it, but I would imagine in severe drought times, maybe they would be desperate enough to do it. Last year we didn't actually see any of that behavior. We saw hippos dying more than actually trying to find carcasses. We had a number of dead buffalo all over the place that many hippos actually walked past and sniffed, but they didn't actually take any bites out of. So I don't think they would actually feed on meat. I think it's pretty much a vegetarian lifestyle for them, and so they'll try and avoid it as much as possible. Now, we're going to leave our wallowing hippos to themselves and probably get onto a vehicle so that we can carry on our afternoon and do the school drive a little bit later. So while we do that, let's go across to James, who's going to be in the tent, or actually he's not in the tent, he's lying in some long grass apparently. So let's go see what he's up to.
I'm just breathless from all the action at the moment. I'm unable to sort of contain myself. Whew. Now, I don't know if you've ever eaten a balanites fruit. I have never, but I have asked Herbert, as I was about to place one in my mouth, what they were like. He said, don't you dare eat that. It's disgusting and it's not good for you. So he, as the son of an ethnobotanical genius, wouldn't touch one. So I definitely wouldn't be eating one. They smell like those foul things known as dried apricots. I'm sure you all know what those are, which I don't think are very nice at all. All right, Fergus, let's do what we came here to do. We came here to do two things. The first was to show you this spider's home that Fergus has rendered fairly hopeless now. No, there was nothing in it before. But I'm not sure what kind of spider's home it was, except to say that today I found something similar, and I put my hand in it, and hundreds of spiders came wandering out onto my hand, and I think that what this probably was a little egg sac for a spider of some sort, and probably kept them, kept them safe until they were hatched, and off they went. And there are a few of them in amongst the bushes over here. Then the second thing is this root. This root is interesting because it's been dug out very specifically out of this hole by, I think, either a badger or a porcupine. I can't imagine what else would have done it, unless it was maybe, you know what it could have been. Because there are badgers we would normally see in and around camp, would see their tracks. Porcupine, you'd see their quills. And I wonder if this wasn't perhaps a scrub hare, and the scrub hare may have dug this hole. I am not going to say anything further, because Jamie has managed to find an elephant and Fergus has just spiked himself in the bottom.
Good timing, everybody. Where's our elephants? We've been one step behind them all through the drive. Now we're one step with them. We're in sync with them. Look at this little one. Oh, it's too gorgeous. There's a tiny, tiny young calf with this herd. And a baby elephant is always such a precious little sight. What are you doing? You're full of nonsense. It's been running up and down the entire time, causing trouble with the other youngsters. Oh, backing up under Mum. Look out. Little female. Oh, with very wobbly legs. This elephant is not old at all. Probably only a couple of weeks at the most. Oh, that is so tiny. Where are you going, you little monster? Oh, you're going to get lost, and Mum's going to get cross with you. Oh, this is lovely. It always takes me back to my first ever live elephant sighting when I first started working for Safari Live in a drainage line. Just like this. It was right here, actually. It was exactly at this particular point. And I find as we get closer to the point where I'm going to be leaving for a while, these memories all come flooding back. I'm going to try and get us another view. There is another elephant off to my left, and I want to come between the elephant and the rest of the herd. Hello. I know what I'm going to do. You'll have to bear with me. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to turn around. Oh, no, I'm not. There is a very large, very pregnant lady in front of me. Okay. We'll stop here then. I'm not going to mess with the pregnant lady. Look at her. I think she's pregnant. She looks bulging to me. She looks as though she's also having a little bit of a snooze. I've positioned myself in a way that I'm not in between the entire herd, which is ideal when you're with elephants. I think she's having a little bit of a rest. Now, you can see clearly that these elephants are completely relaxed with us. Body language completely relaxed. She appears to be playing musical statues. She really is fast asleep. She has not moved.
It's so weird.
She's... Are you okay there, girl? Ah, there we go. So relaxed tails. But of course, we've seen elephants when they're agitated, and Cedar Point would like to know, how do elephants warn each other when danger is lurking? And the answer to that really is they communicate with each other. Whether it's through body language or through the low rumbles that we often hear. The tail is a very, very important indicator when it comes to reading elephant body language. If it's soft and floppy, like hers is, then that animal is perfectly contentedly relaxed. If her ears are flapping gently, then she's relaxed. If her tail's stiff and her ears are out, I have seen some amazing communication between elephants. There was one incident not too long ago. I think she's been digging for water. That's why she was so still. She was waiting for it to filter up through the sand. That's what she was doing. There was a sighting that I had a couple of weeks ago where there was one elephant that suddenly was upset with us. And I don't know if it was because our roof flapped or what it was, but as soon as she became tense, as soon as her body language changed, I don't know what she said or did, but the matriarch immediately came to come and help her and to come and stand over me and just remind me that they're that much bigger than well, we are, and that they could do tremendous damage if they wanted to. And it was such a profound moment because I realized just how in communication elephants are all the time with each other and how aware of each other they are, even when they're spread out. That's exactly what she's been doing. So the Mulwati drainage line, which is where we are now, is a dried up river. It's a dry river. And it flowed not too long ago, which means that even though we can't see the water, the elephants know that it's there, they know where to go and dig, and they'll dig down below the surface of the soil and then let the water well, and that's how they get really nice, very clean drinking water. And elephants are quite fussy. If they can drink clean water, they will drink clean water. Oh, my girl. I'm just checking the eddies behind us have got enough space to come down if they want to. And they definitely do. I'm just making sure that we haven't blocked their route, especially on a steep descent into the river itself. It's better not to be in their way. Several tons of animal walking downhill is quite the sight. Oh, I just saw that baby elephant, and unfortunately I can't reposition again until this lovely lady's finished her drink to show you that little elephant. But Riti, you wanted to know if small elephants are prey for carnivores. Potentially, it is a possibility. It could happen, especially if the rest of the herd, if the youngster has wandered away from the protection of the herd. But it's very, very unusual because elephants are so protective of each other, and it's not just the mum that a predator has to contend with. It's the entire herd, the entire sisterhood of elephants that will come rushing to the defense of a calf. And you'll find that the only thing really that's big enough out here to attack a small elephant, or to attack an elephant, is a lion. And you'll find that in places where, see, there's the water, she's splashing it over her shoulder. In places where lions do kill elephants, and it's unusual here, they generally go for young bulls that are just on the outskirts of the herd, and that the herd is not that invested in protecting. But hyenas, again, also where there's very large clans of hyenas that are used to hunting, are also a potential threat, but it's very, very unusual. I wouldn't want to tangle with mum either. And they form that defensive huddle. We've seen that many a time, where the females band together, sort of stand shoulder to shoulder in a circle around the little ones. And they get very, very protective. The way she's bending, hunching her body so she can reach, she's obviously a very deep hole that she's adopting this posture. I'd love to reposition, but I think I'd make her feel a bit insecure if I did. So we'll just stay where we are for now. Beautiful view. You can see that it's taking her time as well to actually fill up her trunk with water. It's obviously seeping through very slowly. I've been so distracted by the elephants in front of me and behind me, I completely missed what Kirsty was trying to tell me, but I think she's telling me to send you over to James, who's got another thrilling thing in the tent.
Yeah, thrilling. It is quite thrilling. Well, it's semi-thrilling. Can I have semi-thrilling? Let's go to the microscope before I tell you what it is. There we are. It is, of course, I'm almost embarrassed to say it. It's a Vernonia flower, everybody. But we don't normally see it under the microscope like this, which is very nice. Unfortunately, there are no thrips in this one either. But the main reason that I've picked it and put it under the microscope like this is because what I want you to look at is what it looks like once it has finished flowering and turned to seeds. So we can come back to me. There we are. Then I will put the main article, the pièce de résistance of this particular segment, underneath the microscope. Ah, pièce de résistance. Look at it. Now each of those is a little winged seed. Isn't that amazing? Now, so that's all of them. Now we can I'll try and just put one underneath so you can just look at the one. Kirsten, this is going to look seasick. Thank you so much. Back to me. And I'll just put the one underneath with my forceps. I've got forceps here. Very good. I feel like a surgeon. It's not a very good one. Sorry, everybody. It's just a little bit awkward. Yes, there we go. A little bit further down. Yeah, there we go. So that's what the and the light keeps changing. This microscope gets very, very nervous. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. So there we are. That's what it looks like. Let me put a little bit more light onto it. That is one seed. I think that's really quite special. So those are its wings. Oh, I suppose a little bit like a dart flies towards the dartboard or towards whoever you've thrown it at, whomever you've thrown it at. Well, I imagine that those sort of awns, I guess you'd call them, act either like wings or as stabilizers as it flies through the air. That's quite cool. All right, so that's what Vernonia looks like, and then that's what this flower eventually turns to, you can see. Now, Fergus, would you like to make a wish?
Every day I make wishes.
All right, would you like to make one now?
Oh, indeed.
Yes, okay, make it now. Here we go. Almost like a dandelion, slightly heavier, and so they're now all over the desk here. Good. Okay, now we have another plant that gets put to the wind. This one, this time, is Hibiscus macranthus. There we go. Macrantha. And that's what the seed looks like. And of course, I think that this is exactly the same sort of... yes, it does look like a hairy eyeball, Kirsten, but it isn't. It's a seed. And it is much the same as the Vernonia. It is designed like this to be cast to the wind, to the autumn winds, where it will fall into the seed bed and eventually be part of next year's, hopefully, next year's growth. But of course, there's so many seeds and vastly fewer flowers and plants, so I think you'll find that most of them get eaten or destroyed or something like that happens to them. I'm now going to make a wish myself. I'm going to wish to see some cats, and I'm going to hope that all of you wish the same with me. And so as we wish together, I want you to all blow collectively at this flower. Are you ready? Because it's quite heavy. It's going to require a collective breath effort. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That was the sound of my wish being carried to the ether. Good. Right, now you'll be astounded to know that we're about to go and have a fake break that isn't really a break. Now, when you come back, don't forget that Tristan is now on a vehicle, and to watch him drive is a spectacular joy, and Jamie will hopefully still be with those wonderful elephants. And now we're going to head across to Tristan, who has got the sun.
We do indeed, James. The last rays of sunlight going below the Drakensberg Mountains. It's still probably about 10 or 15 minutes away from dropping behind the mountains, but slowly but surely it is starting to get darker, but it's such a beautiful spot to sit. We're on Cheetah cut line now at the moment, and we've traded places with our feet, and we are now on Jigger, who's back up and running and is fixed. So we are on Jigger this afternoon to continue with the rest of the drive, to give James a bit of a break for the school drive, so that we're not just 2 feeds out, because ultimately bushwalk has to go in when it gets a bit dark. So we're going to try and stay out and help out with the school drive, which is going to be good. It also means that we can spend a little bit more time in this area where we had these leopard tracks, and hopefully we get a sort of sound of them or hear them calling somewhere in this area, and we're able to then find them. So we're going to spend our time in the last remaining rays of light trying to check around this area. But like I say, it's just such beautiful sort of light at this time of the day. We've got this sort of gold cast that is just coming over, and this sort of light greeny brown grass just picks up that light, and it looks incredible. The only problem is that most of the grass has now lost its inflorescence, and so the inflorescence is what used to really pick up the light. When you used to get those sort of plumes of chloris grass that would be feathery, and that would all catch that gold light, they were the best. So when I talk about sort of chloris, it's very similar to what we see on the termite mound here. Now I wonder if it's going to pick up a bit of that light for us. What do you think, Dave? Will it work? There we go. Maybe to the right a little bit, Dave. I think that's where we're going to see some golden grass. Claire, you say you never tire of these sunsets. Well, I couldn't agree more. After 30 years of living in Africa and seeing them day to day, they are really, really marvelous. They're absolutely incredible, and we get very spoilt, and sometimes we get the most incredible cloud masses that form over the top of the sun, and we get beautiful colors. And there's that grass that I was talking about that is just highlighted in this late afternoon sun. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if 2 leopards walked out into this area and on top of a termite mound like that? That would be the cherry on top to finish a beautiful autumn day. So let's hope that it's in our cosmic karma and we end up with these 2 leopards. But isn't that amazing? Beautiful, beautiful light. Well done, Davy. Very, very good. Other than that, it's been very quiet. I haven't seen too many tracks, not even for any elephants or buffalo. I had some tracks, but they looked like they were from last night and not from this morning. I mean, from this afternoon. So I'm hoping that there will be some animals that will start to show themselves. It is the time of day where things start to become a little bit more active. So hopefully we will end up seeing something. Like I say, it is a best time to be looking in these areas, and we'll check all the water holes as well, because other than Buffelshoek Dam, there is 1 or 2 other little water points around here that could potentially have some sort of sign of life. Now, I believe a lot of you would like to go to the hyena den. Well, that's a fantastic idea. I think I will slowly amble with purpose, as Jamie would say, towards the hyena den. Great to catch up with Ribbon and her little ones. It will definitely be much bigger than the last time I saw them, and hopefully Ribbon will be there. The last few times I've been to the den, it's just been the little ones and no sign of Ribbon. We've had Madam there, and we've had one of her offspring. Sorry, I just thought I saw something in the road ahead. I just want to get my binoculars out and have a little look. It might just be a bush, which it is indeed. I'm sorry. It was just a sort of something different colored in the grass. And often when you're looking for things out here, a lot of people make the mistake and then that they try and spot just a leopard or just a lion or an elephant, and they often look past a lot of things. And the best way to look for things is to look for sort of differences in tone. So when you see light shades of grass, look for darker objects or something that just doesn't look quite right, and then stop and have a second sort of look at it. And that's often you'll find that you'll spot things a lot easier if you apply that principle. But what a beautiful afternoon. It's a lot warmer than what I thought it would be. In fact, last time I was out in the afternoons on the vehicle, it was quite miserable and very, very cold, and we're wrapped up in jerseys, so it is really nice to be in a warm sort of atmosphere and afternoon. Just having another look again just to see if these leopards haven't crossed. I still haven't found any tracks for them crossing out, but I can't find any fresh tracks of them sort of close to where we last had the tracks, which was right on the edge of the boundary. And so I think maybe with the amount of vehicles that have driven up and down here during the day, unfortunately they probably crossed and the vehicles have driven over and we can't see them. But I am holding out hope that just maybe they're somewhere close by and we'll get lucky and be able to find them here. But it's also a little bit quieter on the bird front. There's definitely a few of the birds have started to disappear. So we've had a situation where there were still a few cuckoos around a few weeks ago and they've now started to go. I haven't seen any signs of them today. And so we're left with only our winter birds. I haven't seen also any signs of woodland kingfisher this afternoon. So I think it's just our normal winter birds that are here, which is good, I suppose, because we're spoilt in that we have a lot of birds, but it kind of lacks that color that we get in the summer months when we get so many different species that come through and migrate, that it feels a little bit depressing when all of them disappear. I'm sure we'll be okay. Well, it does mean that it is starting to get drier, and with drier weather often means better sightings as water becomes a problem, so animals have to start moving towards water and we end up with a much better situation. So hopefully that will be the case, and we'll end up with some really fantastic sightings in the winter. And it's going to be so interesting to see the differences between the Mara, where Brent is, and then Jamie and James and Steph are all going to be, and see how that sort of plays out in comparison to the Djuma winter, and the differences that there will be between the two is going to be really quite something. Just slowly checking along. It's always when you come to a junction of roads important to just look both ways and make sure that you go slowly to a junction, because often animals like to use roads to walk, and so if you just go speeding past an area where a road intersects, you can often miss out and not find what you're looking for. So it's always important just to slow down and have a proper look. Now, just want to see one thing there. Dave, I don't know if you can get that, but the moon has just started to rise as well, and it's just coming up between the trees there. You can see a little white sphere, so we're not quite at full moon yet. Now, unfortunately, it is a little bit between the trees, so I do apologize, but the moon is slowly coming up. I think tomorrow it will be spectacular. Now, while we admire the rising moon, I believe Jamie has found something with a heartbeat that is rather large and is spending her afternoon with some beautiful elephants.
I've got a heartbeat, certainly. I'm very aware of mine in this sighting. This is so amazing. This is so absolutely amazing. This is one of the most gorgeous elephant sightings I've ever had. The reason that my heart's beating so fast is one of them just fell off the bank and decided she was cross with us as a result. But there, look at this baby. Look at it. Just look at it. It's so gorgeous. Look down there. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, little one. Oh, these hills are just so hard. I'm sorry, but there's nothing like a baby elephant. They are just... It's so incredible. Mom's been kicking her baby away from this hole so that it doesn't fall into where they've all been drinking, because this baby is so small. This baby is so tiny that if it fell in, it would get completely and utterly stuck in there. And Mom is so aware of that. Elephants are just mind-boggling to me. Look at your trunk. Oh, look at you. You're going to get sand up your nose. What is this strange new thing? All this damp sand. No, don't come to me, please. You are so tiny that I don't think Mom would appreciate it. I really don't. Oh, goodness. Oh, careful, little one. Careful. This baby's not a few weeks old. This baby's a few days old. Hi. No, don't you come and be cheeky. Don't you come and be cheeky. You're so young. With your wrinkly forehead, you remind me of Benjamin Button. There's a little baby elephant we used to watch. Oh, this is... Seb?
Yeah.
How special is this?
Very special.
This is unbelievable. I'll tell you about the elephant that fell down the hill later, but first we've got to watch this baby. Oh, we're all having fun, huh? Oh, we're all having fun. What have you got to say for yourself? Are you big and scary? Are you big and scary? Yes, very big and scary. Oh, it's very big and scary. Where are you off to? Where are you off to? With your sandy back. Look at the agility of these creatures. Oh, they're amazing. Sorry, I know I keep saying that, but I I'll watch that side, you watch the baby. I've got this one. Hey? Sam, what is going on here? Look at this, sorry, look at this. Look, what are you doing? What are you doing right next to us, hey? Oh, you don't want all the attention to be on the little one, hey? You want to show us something as well. How was that pose? How was that pose? Yes, you are beautiful. Real elephants have curves, hey, my girl. You just want to get up the hill. Oh, it's a tough hill to get up, but there we go. Yes, don't you worry. We're very impressed by you. We're very, very impressed by you. Off you go, you silly girl. Off you go, you did it. Now don't you start with me either now. This is so amazing. There's got elephants everywhere. I don't know where to look. I don't know where to tell you to look. How was that? I wish I could feel like this for the rest of my life. Like I feel when I sit with these elephants. Yes, very stylish. Very, very stylish. Look at you. That colour suits you, darling. Brings out your eyes. I'm not going to say anything for a bit. I'm just going to let you watch this. I don't think it needs words. Has it been a hard day, huh? Been tough. Tough being a young elephant. Now look at the scene in front of us and tell me that you're not in love. We're so lucky. We're so unbelievably lucky. Sorry, let me move my head out of the way. I'm so distracted. I'm getting my bright green cap in Seb's shot, which I don't think is ideal. Another one digging, looking for water, and of course some sand to throw across its face. The dramatic one at the back is my new favorite. Oh, there comes baby now. Oh, careful, careful. Yes, what is it about baby elephants and going face first into the sand? There's just something that they love about it. Like children playing in mud and eating dirt. Laurie, you say look at the wrinkles on its head. Ah, Laurie, I actually don't even have words. It is so precious. They are so precious. Oh dear, have you had to move now? No fun not being the baby of the family anymore, is it? Now, the smaller one gets all the attention and the best sleeping spots, and you just have to move. Look at its feet stuck out like that. It's sitting like a dog. Oh, you are precious creatures. Precious, precious creatures. Now, as soon as this herd starts to move, I'm going to move back, because it's really not fair to expect that little one to try and get up that step. I didn't actually mean, I thought they were all moving in the opposite direction, otherwise I wouldn't have parked here, but I'm not sorry that I did, because this is too gorgeous for words. Look at this. They're playing like little puppies. And I think this one's a bit overtired now. Overtired and overstimulated. Hey. Got a whole host of family to look after it, and Mom's not concerned at all. Mom's the one on the right at the back. That's her over there. She's just very thirsty. Ooh, very thirsty. Don't come between a lactating mom and her water. But she's not worried about the calf at all because she's got this whole host of babysitters around her that she knows will look after it. This is beautiful. It is so gorgeous. Thomas, you say that your day is now made. Thomas, I couldn't agree with you more. My day, this has made my day, my week, my month. I'm so grateful that we have elephants in our lives. They bring something so special that nothing, for me, nothing else brings. Look at that. Could you be any more of a poser? Look at you. I mean, that's not comfortable. Don't tell me that that's comfortable. Now the baby's got a bunch of grass. Oh, it's hard using that trunk, isn't it? It's all very confusing. Baby elephants, of course, have to learn to use their trunks like human beings have to learn to use their hands. That's not nice grass. That's not yummy grass at all. You don't want to eat that. There's another skirmish over the water. Mummy's hogging it. This is wonderful news. Garrison and Sagebrush Elementaries have joined us this afternoon. So welcome to all of you. This is so special. You've come at just the right time. So we've got 2 schools joining us. Just a quick introduction. My name is Jamie, and we're sitting with elephants that Seb has been filming this afternoon. And it is an absolutely precious sighting. So you guys are watching what's happening right here and right now in South Africa. And it's so gorgeous. So over the next 45 minutes, you guys can send through all your questions that you have and send them through to us. Maybe you'd like to know more about these elephants. They're playing. Oh dear. And it's hard to roll over when you're that big. The baby's stuck, Seb. The baby fell down the hill and it's stuck now. Can't quite get up. Oh, this is too precious. Oh my goodness. Okay guys, alright. Okay. I was going to move, but now we can't, so we're just going to have to sit very still, Seb. Hello, Mum. Okay, Mummy. Hello, Mummy. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Hello, big girl. No, baby, you can't get up there. Alright, big girl. Mommy, you can't expect your baby to get up that hill. Very still, Seb. Hi, guys. Hello. 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 Don't touch my car. You'll get into trouble. Okay. 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 Alright. Hi, guys. Alright. Okay. Nice and still. Nice and still. Now, what's happening here is there's this tiny, tiny baby, and it needs to get up the hill, but it can't because it's too small. And Mom is standing by to protect it. There you go. Push it up. Push it up. Give it a push. Watch this. Watch this. There it goes. Give it a push. Come on. Look how this elephant's helping it. Up you get. Come on, little Bubba. You can do it. You can do it. Hey, you too. are not helping. Alright, alright, alright. Okay. Alright, Seb, we need to move. Because this baby's not going to get up this hill. I just don't want to start the engine and frighten
I'll
it.
start now.
Yeah.
Just wait a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to let it just...
We're fine.
Come on, move the baby. Move the baby to the edge. It's stuck between these two boys now, which is not helping us. Come on. It's caught in the grass. Okay, baby. You boys are not helping matters. You boys are not helping at all. Come on, problem solved, little one. Look how she's wrapping her trunk. She's going to try and lift the baby up. Come on, baby. Come on, you're so close. Okay, Mom. Alright, it's not my fault. Come on, little Bubba. You're going the wrong way, sweetie. There's a nice, easy way for you to get up. You just have to go around a little bit, and you need to move out of its way. It's okay. It's okay. Come on, Bubba. Don't panic. Okay, I definitely can't start the engine now. Baby's too close. And it'll get such a fright.
We're gonna walk you on the grass. You can
Hi, Mom. There we go.
There we go.
There we go, you silly thing. Was that so easy? Was that so easy, huh? Not so difficult. Oh, it's difficult even when you're a big elephant, apparently. Now, don't take it out on me. That was so cool. I love elephants so much. And you? Did you get left behind? Yes, yes, yes. Juliana, you want to know how much the baby weighs. We're just going to sit still until they've moved off completely, and then we'll move. That was so cool. But you're... There, Seb, well done. Seb did an amazing job there
And you too.
of staying very still. Right, Juliana, sorry, you want to know how much a baby elephant weighs. It's about 100 kilograms when it's born. That's over 200 pounds. That is an absolutely massive baby. But bear in mind, Mum is pregnant for nearly 2 years, 22 months. So when she does have that baby, she's so protective over it. And that's why, in the position that we were in, I wanted to move back, but they came so quickly that I didn't have a chance to. And that's why we had to be so careful and so quiet. You must have heard how I was whispering. I was just communicating to her. She can't understand what I'm saying, but I'm communicating to her that we're not a threat to that baby in any way. But she was worried because she couldn't get it up the hill. But that happens. That would happen whether or not I was here, because apparently all the elephants ignored the fact that there's a gentle slope over there. That was so cool, though. What a fantastic way to start off your school drive than with elephants that close to us. And these are wild elephants. They're not tame elephants at all. They're completely wild. But by our body language and behavior and the fact that they've seen safari vehicles throughout their lives, they're comfortable with us. They're not scared of us. And that's great, provided we respect that, which is why we sat so quiet and still, especially when she had that little one. But the coolest part, the way that baby got up, was Mom with her trunk, just giving it that little leg up that it needed. Oh, let me show you something over here. This is where they were drinking. Now that they've moved off, we can come and have a look. That's the hole that they've dug to get to the water. There we go. That's the water over there. My heart rate is still somewhere right up in the top of my chest, possibly in my throat. Now, you can see where they've been playing, and Alison, you want to know, well, why do they roll in the dirt? Alison, they roll in the dirt for a couple of reasons. One, if they get itchy skin, then it really helps to relieve that itch. And two, I think they do it because they enjoy it. I think it feels good on their skin. I think they enjoy that texture. So that is why they roll in the dirt and in the sand. It helps to get rid of things like ticks as well. You can imagine, they don't have any thumbs. They can't pick off a tick that might be on their skin, especially in those hard-to-reach places. So they throw the sand up. It also helps to, and I mean, that's not why they're doing it at the moment, because it's nighttime here in South Africa. The sun has gone down. The sun is set. But the reason that they do it is also to help protect their skin against the harsh effects of the sun. So that bright, burning sun, particularly in summer, then what an elephant will do is it'll go and roll in mud, or it'll roll in sand, or even have a swim, and then go and throw dirt over its back to help to keep it cool and to help to protect its skin. The elephants have moved off, and they've gone to go and find themselves some dinner, I imagine. We know why elephants roll in the dirt. Why on earth is James rolling in the dirt?
I'm doing it because I was so very, very jealous of Jamie's sighting. She has had a wonderful elephant sighting. I haven't seen elephants for a very long time. My name is James Hendry, and, well, we've got Fergus on camera, but he's not going to show you his thumb because, unfortunately, he's holding the camera. Good. Now, those elephants were magnificent and a tremendously exciting sighting that you had to start with, and I'm very jealous of Jamie. I'm not going to be able to speak to her when she gets back here. So we're going to try and show you something very small over here. And hopefully Jamie's luck will hold and she'll find you something else quite fun. So this thing is called an ant lion. And maybe if Jamie's luck holds, she'll find you a real lion. But this is called an ant lion. So what we're going to do, just look at the hole here. And if I flick it like that, normally what happens is that the ant lion will push the sand out of his little home. And this guy, of course, is not doing that. So what I'm going to try and do, he can dig one of these in about 10 seconds, so I'm not going to worry too much about destroying it. Let's see if I can pick him up. Let's see if we can collect him now. Let's put this over here, and we'll just see if he doesn't pop out. There he is. Is that him? No, it's not him. So what he will do, he digs that thing, it's like a trap to catch ants in. And
Like Star Wars.
it's like Star Wars, yes. And he grabs the ants with these special little pincers that he has. And I wonder if we didn't miss him, maybe. Oh, that's a pity. Hang on a second. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. Here's one. Here's another one. Because if we can get him out, it'll be such fun to look at him. We've got a very special thing in the tent called a microscope. There he is. Is that him? No, it's a piece of sand. Oh, this is a disaster. Sorry, everyone. My luck really isn't anything like as good as Jamie's. No, still nothing. Let's try one more. Okay, we'll try one more. Are you here, Mr. Antlion? I think what happens is that it gets cold, you know. It's got quite cold. And I think maybe they just stop moving. No. I'm really quite disappointed by that. We'd found this hole and we waited, and unfortunately, well, the antlion is not home anymore. Sorry about that. Okay, well, that's not to say we can't find you something else interesting and something to put under a microscope. I'm just going to quickly clean myself off. I don't have an elephant mother to help me there. What else can we find here? Right. Now, we're coming towards the end of our summertime, and what that means, well, in fact, we're into pretty much the beginning of wintertime. What that means is that our flowers are finishing. The beautiful flowers of our summer are coming to an end, but they've got lots of insects in them. And we're just quickly going to show you the moon over there with this flower, and then I'm going to put this flower underneath the microscope, and we'll see if we can't find something exciting inside the flowers. Isn't that beautiful? And there you can see a rabbit in the moon, and with any luck, you'll meet Tristan just now. He'll find you the equivalent of a rabbit, and that, of course, out here is something called a scrub hare. Now, this is where I work. Once we've had a look at the beautiful moon. That's a wonderful shot there that Fergus is getting of the rabbit in the moon. It looks like a big piece of cheese with a rabbit printed on it, which I think is quite fun. And I want to show you now my very beautiful office. Isn't it cool? I bet none of you have got an office like this. I bet none of your parents have got an office like this. In the middle of the wild of Africa. Let's see. Now, this is my special microscope, everybody. And you know, they're not too expensive, these things. You can buy them online. And I tell you what, they will make your life change. There we go. How pretty is that? I bet you didn't think when I showed you this little spiky green thing with a couple of white spikes on it, I bet you didn't think to yourself, there is a gorgeous pink flower there. Well, there it is. And I'm just going to move it slightly, because you often find things living inside these flowers. Naturally today, a bit like with my antlion search, doesn't seem to be much going on inside this one. Let's move it around a little bit and see if there isn't something else maybe. There, you can see the different structures that this flower has. Each one of these will make a seed. Each one of these little purple flowers will make a pretty seed. It really is very pretty, but I don't know why. Today is just not my day. I can't find anything living. This one's a little bit older. Let's turn this one round.
I'm sorry, Jim. I'm afraid I can't
Now,
answer.
my telephone seems to be talking to me. It says, I'm sorry, James, I just cannot find the answer, it says. Well, I tell you what I think about that. Not very much. Anyway, we'll toss that out. Sorry about that. Let's go let's go back to the flower. Did you see that? It started answering my question as if I didn't know the answer. Now, Aileen, you ask a very good question. You say, what kind of flower is this? Aileen, it's called a knotweed. A knotweed. And unfortunately, this knotweed is not performing like I hoped it would. I'm going to try and find another one because I found some wonderful insects on a knotweed yesterday. Alas, nothing today. Oh, and I'll quickly show you one more thing. We've got a lovely thing over here. He's called Ronald the Rover. And Ronald the Rover is a beautiful view of the last dying embers of the day. And I'll just show you that Ronald can move. I hope he can still move, can he? No, he's frozen completely stiff. This might be the worst day of my life. I don't think I've had less luck than I've had today. So I'm going to try and find a bit more luck and hope that Tristan, who you're going to see now, is doing a bit better than me.
Well, unfortunately, we're also not having very much luck at all. We're struggling to find anything, but we have a new target, and we shall try and find that scrub here that James is talking about. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera we've got Dave, and like I say, we're on the hunt for a scrub hare. So hopefully we'll find them. It is a little bit early for them now. We haven't seen any signs of them just yet, but this is around the time of the day that the little scrub hares come out and start looking for food and start to spend the night moving around. So with a bit of luck, maybe we will find them. I hope so, because otherwise it's been a very difficult afternoon. We've had no luck whatsoever. We tried to track some leopards, but we had no luck. But what we do have, Dave, I have spotted something which is a miracle. It is going to snow. There is a white-backed vulture on the tree. So we have found ourselves our first animal, which is amazing. And it is a bird, a very, very big bird, and one that looks quite ugly. This is what we call a white-backed vulture. And these are one of my favorite birds. I know they're very ugly and they eat meat and everybody doesn't really like them, but they are so useful for this area. White-backed vultures help to keep everything in this area nice and clean, and they get rid of all the smelly meat that we have lying around from the lions and the leopards and the cheetahs, and so they make everything nice and hygienic and clean and make sure that we don't have bacteria everywhere and causing other animals to get sick. Now, the reason why this vulture is sitting here, it's not because there is a source of meat anywhere close by. It is sitting here because it's now time for it to go to sleep. Vultures fly around at night. They don't move around during the day because otherwise, don't move around at night because they can't see where they're going. So they fly at night to be able to find the food that they need. And so when it starts to get dark like it is now, you'll find the vultures are going to land on their open trees like this, and they'll tuck their necks in to stay nice and warm, and then they will spend the evening there. And if we came here first thing tomorrow morning when the sun was just starting to come up, I bet this vulture will still be sitting there waiting patiently for the sun to come up, for it to get a little bit warmer, so that it can then start to find the food that it needs. Now, the interesting thing with a vulture is if you look on its head there, you see it's got no feathers. Now, I wonder if any of you can guess why it's got no feathers. Remember, you can tell your teachers why you think it's got no feathers, and we'll see who can guess correctly. You see the rest of the body has got lots of big feathers, but the neck and head are bare. So hopefully one of you will be clever enough to know why that is. But they do look very Undertaker-ish as they sort of watch. And he's got the best place to watch over the beautiful moonrise that we've got. We've got a full moon almost coming up now, so there you can see our moon coming over the horizon. I'm going to just try and position. There we go. Well done, Dave. So isn't that moon beautiful? So that vulture's got this perfect view. It had a view of the setting sun, and now it's got a view of this beautiful moon as it lifts and comes above the African bush, and the night will then start. And from there, this vulture will then in the morning hopefully hear sounds of lions or leopards killing something, and will then fly into that area and be able to spot it and then go and try and hassle those animals for food. Corbin, you're wondering how many different species of vultures we have. Well, in this area, let's count them. We've got the white-backed vulture, which is this one sitting, so that's number one. Then we've got what's called a lapid-faced vulture, which is the biggest of the vultures that we see here and is really, really big. Then we've got a white-headed vulture. We have a cape vulture, we have a hooded vulture, and very, 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 very rarely you'll sometimes get an Egyptian vulture. So that makes the 6 of them. Now, I hope I've gotten them all. I don't think I'm missing anything. Maybe James or Jamie might have some others that they know about, but as far as I know, it's just those 6 that can be seen here. Now, generally, the ones that we see the most are these white-backed vultures. These are the ones that are the most common, then followed by the hooded vulture, and then the rest of them start coming, and right at the back end is the Egyptian vulture, which is very hard to see. Now, we're going to carry on and scour around for our little scrub here and see if it's come out of the bushes somewhere. And while we do that, I believe Jamie's got her spotlight out and is scanning around for some nocturnal animals of her own.
Who knows what nocturnal creatures we could find? We could find a scrub hare. We might try and beat Tristan to finding a scrub hare. You never know. We could find a porcupine. We could find a chameleon. All I know is that my day has been completely made by that elephant sighting. I'm so happy. I haven't even noticed that I've forgotten my jacket. Now, all the way through that sighting, while I was sitting with those elephants, I could hear them rumbling to each other. And RJ, you want to know, how do elephants communicate? Scrub hare. Hold on, RJ, hold on 1 second. There's the rabbit that we've been looking for. Here we go. There's a little scrub hare. And James was telling you about the rabbit in the moon. You can see this one with its long ears. Not a rabbit, of course, but a hare. And the difference being that hares live out in the open. We actually don't get any rabbits in this particular area. You do get rabbits in South Africa, but not here. And hares' babies are born a lot more developed than that of rabbits. Beautiful, isn't it? You can see its ears twitching, listening all around it, making sure that there's nothing out here that's going to come and pounce on it and eat it. Pays to be careful if you're a little scrub hare out here. So there we go. We found your scrub hare for you. But I was answering RJ's question, and I know lots of you have lots of elephant questions that you'd like to ask. So we'll leave Tristan to find you another scrub hare, and we'll carry on with RJ's question. Elephants communicate in a couple of ways. One is body language. Their tails, their ears, their trunks, all of those, if you know how to read them, communicate the way that an elephant feels. Then there's their vocal communication. Elephants talk to each other a lot. Sometimes they scream at each other. They have family arguments, and the babies especially will often give off this very loud, quite high-pitched trumpeting sound. And they also communicate with very, very low rumbles, sometimes too low for us to hear as human beings. So they might still be talking to each other, and I might not even be able to hear the sounds that they're making. I'm trying to decide which way I'm going. Let me go this way. So elephants are very complex creatures. They also, like all animals out here, something that human beings don't do so well, they communicate through smell. Now, Thomas, you want to know why do they have big trunks? A couple of reasons. Thomas, imagine if an elephant, because an elephant stands, its mouth could easily be up to 2 meters above the ground. Now imagine if an elephant had to bend down and drink without its trunk. Imagine if it had to go and stick its face in the water, like a dog or a cat laps up water. It would be really difficult, especially for the big ones, to get right down and drink that way. So the trunk is really useful for pulling water up to their mouths. It's also really useful for communicating. It's very, very strong. They can use it to break down big branches and then feed off them, high branches that they might not be able to reach. But the trunk is so delicate and sensitive as well that they can pick up something like a toothpick or a matchstick off the ground. So even though that trunk is so strong, it's also really flexible, and it's got points that touch together. Now, we saw that hole earlier, and Reagan, you want to know, do they dig with their feet or with their trunks? A combination of different things. They dig with their tusks often, so they'll bend down and dig with their tusks if there's something they need to loosen. Most of the time, they'll loosen the soil with their feet. So they scuff backwards and forwards, but they can still use their trunk to then scoop the dirt out of the way so that they can dig down. And sometimes they're digging for water, sometimes they're digging for tubers. You know, like potatoes grow underground. Well, a lot of plants out here store water and store starch underneath the surface of the soil. So they will smell that with their very sensitive sense of smell, and they'll dig it up. So they dig with all three different things. And that's what makes elephants so unique, because there's nothing else really that has a trunk like that. Now, the reason that I was quite happy in that sighting is the fact that that mom was quite an older mom. So this isn't her first baby, which meant she was a lot more relaxed in that situation, because she's obviously had experience with this. Donovan, you want to know how old elephants get? They can live up to 60 years in the wild, sometimes even 70, but that's very, very unusual. For the males, they don't live quite as long as the females. You could look at somewhere between 45 and 50. But either way, an elephant basically lives almost as long as a human being. They live a really very long time. And they've got very big, very powerful brains that process enormous amounts of information. So they're very intelligent animals as well. And the older ones teach the younger ones how to behave. And of course, an elephant herd is led by the head female, the matriarch. She tells the elephants where to go. She decides where they must go for water, where they must go for food. And if there's something dangerous or something that makes them feel scared, all of the older elephants will be there to protect the little ones. It's one of the reasons why I love elephants as much as I do. They've got such complex behaviors that they demonstrate. And that was such an exciting, exciting thing. We've seen something massive. Now James has something much, much smaller to show you.
Finally had some luck, everybody. There is an antlion. Can you believe it? Now, this is what we call the larval form. So it's a larva. You know how a caterpillar becomes a moth or a butterfly? Well, this thing becomes something that looks like a dragonfly. And eventually, so this is a young one. And often, the thing that it becomes, the antlion it becomes, actually never feeds. It never eats anything. But as a larva or a youngster like this, it feeds all the time. And it uses those rather vicious pincers you can see at the front there to catch ants. Isn't that amazing? Caden, you're wondering why they call it an antlion. They call it an antlion, Caden, because it eats ants and it catches them. Now what I'm going to try and do is put it into a little observing pen, and then we're going to try and put it under the microscope. Oh, sorry. I'm very excited. It's my first piece of luck today. Ooh. Look at that. See that? Now he's upside down. And I think he'd actually look much better on black background. Sorry, Kirst, come back a sec. So let's put him on a black background. That's much better. And we'll just do this a bit. Isn't he cool? So there you can see his vicious little biting mouth parts. And you can see he's got 6 legs, so he's an insect. That's how we know that. And he walks backwards. Always walks backwards because that's how he digs. So he digs backwards into his little burrow, and he uses those back legs to dig himself into his burrow. I think this is a rather fantastic sighting of an antlion. Let's see how close down we can get to him before he moves. He's absolutely fine. He's just playing dead. Lots of animals like this will play dead if they think they've been spotted. Put the thing right on top of him, and then I know that's not a great picture. There we go. We'll just put some light on quickly. There. Isn't that amazing? Oh, he's starting to wake up again. And look at his beard. He's got a little beard. And now you can see his vicious teeth there. You see that? Look at those sores on the front of his, what they'd call them pedipalps, I guess, modified pedipalps. So those big pincers on the front of his face, on his jaws. And imagine being an ant and grabbed by that. You wouldn't have a chance, would you? So what we will do eventually is just return him to the soil, where, like I say, in about 10 seconds he'll make himself another home. But they do like to pretend to be dead because it tends to put predators off sometimes. Now, Raina, you're obviously quite a clever person. You say, do animals come out according to the seasons? Absolutely, they do. These animals will come down. Whoops. These animals will come out mainly during the summer months. There he is. That's the top of him. They'll come out mainly during the summer, and we're just going out of the summer now, so there'll be a few of them left, and some of them will survive throughout the winter. But when it gets cold, it's difficult for an insect. So most of the insects and the reptiles and that sort of thing will only be out in the summertime. And we're going into winter now, so much of these very special sightings of these animals are going to become much less frequent. And the bigger animals then will start to concentrate around the water. You saw those elephants. We'll find buffalo and that sort of thing also around all the water holes as the water gets less and less during the dry season, because winter for us is our dry season. See how he's trying to dig with his bottom there. Now, Malia, you're wondering how long it takes an antlion pupa to turn into an adult. I don't know how long the pupa takes, but I know that this process, so from larval stage up until adult stage, takes a year. So it takes roughly a full year for this chap to eat enough ants to become big enough to turn into an antlion. You see how he's trying to dig there with his bottom? Can't figure out quite why it's so difficult here in this plastic. And all those hairs around him will help him to be able to get into the soil. And Elizabeth, as I was just saying there, you say, why are they hairy? Well, Elizabeth, it's because we think that those hairs help him to push the soil out of the way, to push the sand out of the way when he goes under the ground. Isn't that cool? I think that's just the most wonderful shot. Okay, I'll tell you what we'll try and do now. We'll try something quite special. Let's see if we can't watch him dig. Let's put him over there. And then what we'll do is we'll take the sand that he was in. That's the sand here on this piece of paper. Okay, and we'll put it in the other half of our viewing device. There we go. Okay, we'll put that there. Not make too much mess. For me not to make a mess is very unusual. And now we're going to put this chap in here. And I'm going to quickly try and get the microscope onto him, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it fast enough before he digs himself under the ground. Boom. Right, there we go. Dig. Ah, cool. Now let's see. Watch, watch. Come on, dig. There, you can see him digging. Look, there he goes. There he goes. Go on, under you go. I thought they were a bit faster than that. There he goes. And he's gone. And that's where he'll wait for an ant to come past. How amazing was that? I think this might be the best antlion sighting I've ever had after such a poor start. Cool, so that's where he's going to hide. And I'll put him back outside right now. You can see outside it's got quite dark. Ooh, but Tristan is not afraid.
Well, I don't know, James. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit afraid of such things. Now, we're still failing miserably in our quest for our scrub hare. We have yet to find anything with a heartbeat besides our vulture, so it's all quite quiet at this stage, but it is a good time to have things coming out. Oh, Sam, this is an interesting one. You want to know how many different species of nocturnal animals there are. Well, Sam, there's probably more than I can actually count, because if we're thinking about all the different animals, then we've got to count the insects like the antlion that James was showing you, and then we've got to count some of the nocturnal birds like the owls and the nightjars. Then there's the animals, which there are lots of those too. And so it would be quite a number of them. And I actually don't even know how many there would be. There's also frogs and toads that move around at night, certain snakes. So it is a lot of animals that do. But if we think about the more common ones, and if we're thinking about mammals, then I would say that the ones that are active at night are lions and leopards, and the small carnivores like servals and caracals, civets, genets, the scrub hare that we're talking about just now, which is not a carnivore, and they'll be out. There'll be things like pangolins and aardvarks, which are types of mammals that come out at night. So there are quite a number of them that do come out, but I'm not sure the exact number of species that are out here at any one time in the evening. Avalon, you want to know what the most dangerous animal is? Well, I think it depends if you're in a vehicle or if you're walking. Now, if you're in a car like we are now, I would say the most dangerous animal would probably be an elephant. That would be probably for me the most dangerous one. I'm not sure what James and Jamie would say, but I would say for me in a car, an elephant. But on foot, my sort of ones that I'm scared of, well, not scared of, but the ones that I have the most respect for is probably buffalo and hippos if they are out of the water. Those two can be very dangerous if you're not watching what you're doing and you're not very careful around them. Then sometimes you can get yourself into a bit of a problem. But on a car, for me, an elephant would be something that you'd have to be very, very worried about, because an elephant has got a lot of power and can potentially do quite a lot of damage and hurt you. But luckily for us in this area, as you saw earlier, the elephants are very, very nice, and they haven't been hunted or been shot at or tried to be poached, and so they are a lot more relaxed with us here than some elephants in the rest of Africa. So Braxton, since we're talking about Africa, you want to know where exactly we are in Africa. Well, Braxton, we are in South Africa, in the southernmost tip of the continent, and we are in the northeastern parts of South Africa. So in a place called Djuma Game Reserve, which is in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which is part of the Greater Kruger National Park. And we basically sit on the border of Mozambique and Zimbabwe inside South Africa. So it is a beautiful part of the world to be, and we are quite far south of the equator in the southern hemisphere. So quite a long way away from where you are, up in the northern hemisphere. But it is a very pretty part of the world. We have a beautiful amount of trees and grasses and animals that makes things very special. Now, we have found something with a heartbeat in front, Dave, so maybe we can try out a bit of technology and we can use our infrared light. So we have an infrared light that works really, really well. So while that warms up, we have some impalas that are in front of us. Now there they are, just in the darkness. I think, Dave, I might try and get a little bit closer because otherwise we're going to struggle a little bit. But we switch into the infrared so that we can see a little bit better at night and not worry about hurting the animal's eyes, because a lot of the animals out here have very sensitive eyes, and so they get hurt if they are shone upon with spotlights. And so with the infrared light, we're able to watch them and not hurt their eyes in any single way, which is really good. Now let's see if they're not going to have run away from us. Dave, can you still see them? So, Carly, are you wondering if all the animals drink from the same water hole? Well, yes, in the winter times when there's very little water around, then you'll find they all do. So the elephants and the lions and the leopards and the impalas will all share the water hole together. But in summer, then no. When there's lots of water around, then they all go to their different spots to drink what they need to drink. Now, as you can see, there are our two impalas. It looks like a impala male on the left. You can see he's got horns. Now the one on the right looks like a female, and actually at this time of the year is the time where the males and the females go together. So you'll find that this is quite common to see the two of them together. And you can see they're watching us because they know that this time of night is when all the predators come out, and the lions and the leopards, they start looking for food. And so the impalas have to be very, very, very careful and very, very nervous and listen to what's going on so that they don't get eaten. And that's why you see they're not feeding, they're just stopping, and they're using those big ears that they're able to listen very well, and their sense of smell to be able to try and work out what's going on in the darkness. Their eyes are not as good as the predator's eyes, and so they don't see as well, and it means that it's a lot harder at night for them to stay safe. Aren't they beautiful? Now, we're going to carry on and see if I can't find that scrub hare and see if we can't catch it in the last few minutes of the show. But while we do that, I believe Jamie is on to some more elephants and is now become affectionately known as the Elephant Whisperer.
We did do a lot of whispering, I will say that. I don't know how much the elephants understood, but we did a lot of whispering to elephants today. We did a lot of whispering full stop, but it was definitely magical. Oh, what a nice way to end a day. Now, Ellie, just quickly before we finish off our drive, you want to know, why do elephants have such big ears? Ellie, I'm just going to stop quickly because I might as well concentrate on giving you an answer. They've got such big ears, because they're such big animals and it gets really hot out here. Sometimes it gets over 100 degrees Fahrenheit day after day after day. And when you're as big as an elephant, you get hot. So what they have is a network of veins and capillaries in their ears that are really close to the surface. So they flap and the air moves across, and it's like having a giant air conditioning unit built in. It cools them down, and then that blood goes to the rest of their body. Now, unfortunately, that's it for this evening's Sunset Safari. It's time to say goodbye. So first of all, a big thank you to the schools for joining us. I hope that you guys have had an incredible time and that you learned a lot about the different animals out here. And then a big thank you to Seb, a big thank you to Seb for doing an amazing job on the back of the vehicle today and having absolute nerves of steel. Very, very impressed. We had a very, very good afternoon. It was amazing. And a big thank you to Kirst and to... Who was in final control with Kirst? Alice, I'm so sorry. And most importantly, thank you to all of our viewers. We'll see you tomorrow on the Sunrise Safari. Bye-bye, everybody, and we'll catch up with you then.